Welcome, everybody, to the Streakers Island podcast. It is I, Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed sports analyst. And we know the panel. We have Mr. Lane Dashing Dashco, the most dashing of them all. We have Mr. More for your money. Woo! And the man with the update, Chazzy 6.1.
Yeah, boy.
Now, I'm curious about Chazzy. When you get your updates, you know how like some computers are like water cooled, some are big fans. Are yours cooled by milk? I think they're cooled by milk.
Yes. At that temperature, absolutely.
We got an action-packed show today. We're gonna break down all the NHL awards, and you know there's gonna be some crazy takes, especially from Dan. And we're also gonna give out some of our own personal awards. Which the award is just, we're just telling you did a great job. And I think that's the best award of them all. We're also going to break down Game 6 of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. Will Edmonton push it to 7 and then break our hearts like the Leafs did? Will Edmonton break our hearts in 6? Will Edmonton win in 7? We'll break that all down. CFL Week 2 has came and gone. We're going to really dive into those games and tell us our thoughts about them. I have my power rankings because I'm like, you know what? The other power rankings, they're not good enough. You need the analyst power rankings, the self-proclaimed power rankings. We're going to also talk about how the Blue Jays got swept. And thought they were going to win 98 wins. Now we're back to thinking they're going to win 8. I don't know what to say with this Blue Jay team, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go over the NBA finals, a trade in baseball. I'm sure we'll bring up random things that aren't even on the script. So let's just I'll dive right into this show.
You just copied me there.
Okay. No fun. Number one, I started doing that dive into the show thing back in like 2019.
No, you did the dabbing thing.
No, I said let's dive into the show, and then I dabbed out. There's a difference.
Okay.
Dive in, dab.
You just copied my friend Buchanan with the dab.
I was not copying Josh Buchanan. I didn't even know who he was back then.
They did.
You're a...
He's my video guy. He's got to train me
out. Flying so much his pants have burnt into shorts. Now let's get into the NHL awards. And I think it's time to start with the Hart and the Vezina, which both went to Connor Hellebuyck. Now, the Hart Trophy is for the MVP in the regular season. The Vezina is the best goalie voted, not the best goals against average, which is another trophy we'll get into, which is a team percentage. But I'm not surprised that Connor Hellebuyck's winning both here. The finalists for MVP was Nikita Kucherov and Leon Draisaitl. Now, I have some interesting thoughts here on who I think could have won this MVP.
I do too.
I think we all do. So, Dan, why don't we start with you? Because I think yours is going to make people shake their head a lot.
Mine's really out to lunch, I'll be honest with you. When I look at the MVP, I don't just look at the most goals scored or the most points or whatever. I look at who makes the biggest difference on the ice, game and night, and who leaves the biggest gap in the lineup when they are not in the lineup. That's why I thought of the person I thought of. And maybe I noticed the gap more in the playoffs versus the regular season. So that's why it might look kind of weird. But my person was a Winnipeg Jet, though it's not Connor Hellebuyck. It was Mark Scheifele. Well, I know it's a crazy person to pick. But when I look at a Winnipeg team, there is literally no other centerman that can be close to a number 2 centerman or number 1 besides Mark Scheifele. I know you think I'm crazy, but when Mark Scheifele was out, Winnipeg looked really bad in the playoffs. Mark Scheifele tied for the lead the most game-winning goals with 11, only with Leon Draisaitl for when the record was hard. He had 39 goals, 48 assists, played all 82 games, and that's why during the season we didn't really think of him as MVP because he played every game. But then in the playoffs when he was missing, it's like this Winnipeg team is completely different without him. I mean, he also played over 20 minutes every night. He had 21% shooting percentage. Like, you know, he's a first overall draft pick, Barry Coates boy. I know I'm a little off the map there, but like I said, he had a career year this year as well with 87 points. Was a plus 12 playing against all the other teams' top lines. And it's like, yeah, I think he left the biggest gap when he was out. So mine was Mark Seifley.
Okay. Lane, what do you think of that? Do you agree with me that Dan deserves circus book?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't disagree with what Dan is saying necessarily. I don't agree with the player he chose, but I do think Dan makes a good point that, when you look at the way they hand this award out this regular season, they tend to just give it. They tend to just slap it on a guy who gets the most points and the biggest name in the league. Like, you would never think Jacob Slavin could get a MVP regular season because he gets like 10 points and doesn't look flashy, but yet on the end of the game, he blocks out every player. But I actually will give the NHL credit. I think this is the first year in a long time they've actually gotten this award bang on. I think Connor Hellebuck is the MVP regular season. He's played the most. Eric Comrie, I know he's a decent goalie, but at the end of the day, he doesn't play very many games. Connor Hellebuck, we looked at how many games he played in the regular season and just how dominant this team was during the regular season. And a big part of it at the end of the day is the goalie. He had a great save percentage. He had goals against average. And I was gonna actually send in a video for this, but I actually think a few years ago when it was Matthews versus Shesterkin, I think Shesterkin should have got it over Matthews because it was a similar situation where like Shesterkin had only played 30 games, but out of the 30 games, 15 of them they were overshot by 20 shots or more. It's like at the end of the day, it's like little things like that people don't really consider. But I will give the NHL credit. I think for the first time in a while, I think this is a bang on choice.
I think it's a bang on choice, but I do want to give another option. And now this would never happen, by the way, because they didn't make the playoffs. They almost made it. And my sleeper pick for the Hart would have been Nazem Kadri. Nazem Kadri put the Calgary Flames on his back, said, hold whatever beverage I'm drinking. I'm going to try to get you to the playoffs. And if it wasn't for Nazem Kadri, I don't know if Calgary is even a 500 club. Right?
Wow.
Like, and I mean, I get the MVP is the most valuable player of the league, but I almost like the way the CFL does it, where each team puts forward their most valuable player, and then it's based on that way. A guy that wasn't in the finalists who actually I thought could have easily won this was Cale Makar. I think Cale Makar, in my opinion, is the best player in the league. I have said this multiple times. I think he's better than Connor McDavid. I really do. Because what he can do as a defenseman is unbelievable. Plus, he's not a defensive liability. He's not like an Evan Bouchard that forgets to back check half the time, right? But, I mean, Nazem Kadri, my sleeper pick, Cale Makar, my realistic pick, but I agree with you, Lane. I think Connor Hellebuck was the right choice for the regular season MVP. If we're talking playoffs, I mean, Connor Hellebuck might be the most underwhelming playoff player in the league. But, Chazzy, what are your thoughts on the MVP here?
I think it was close between Hellebuck and Kucherov. Kucherov, what, 100,
that's a good pick too.
121 points. If we're talking about impact on team, he almost played the full season, 78 games. So
I just hate Kucherov.
I will say,
like, I lost so much respect for him after he wins the Stanley Cup, does interviews pissed drunk, shirtless, acting like a total word I won't say on camera. And I'm just like, when the league decides to promote this guy, I'm like, man, you're just looking like, hey, the NHL, we're white trash. That's to me what the league looked like when they did that.
Oh, like we read that comment. I will say, there's one other player who I was going to pick, but I thought for sure someone else would have picked him, so I didn't pick him. So since no one else picked him, I'll just say who it is. It is like what Jacob's saying from Colorado, but it's Nathan McKinnon. McKinnon, holy cow. I know he didn't make it far in the playoffs. He had 7 goals in 7 games in the playoffs, which is incredible. He led the league in assists with 84 assists. I was going to pick Nathan McKinnon, but I thought for sure someone else would have picked him. That's why I picked Mark Seifley. But if no one else did, I want to give credit to Nathan McKinnon too, as I think he easily could have won this.
But I think it's time to move on to the Vezina. And I mean, the Vezina to me was an absolute no-brainer. Like, I don't think it was even close, in my opinion. I saw Anthony Stolarz finish 5th in Toronto. I mean, I think maybe if he was healthy more in the
If
year.
you played the full season,
I actually think 5th was a little high for Stolarz, to be honest with you. Not that he's a bad goalie whatsoever, but I wouldn't have put him that high. Finalists were Darcy Kemper and Andrei Vasilevsky, but the only one I'm a little surprised wasn't a finalist over Vasilevsky. I thought maybe Philip Gustafson out in Minnesota. Had a lot of shutouts this year, played at a really high level, helped that team stay alive when they were missing Kaprizov and Eriksson. So I thought maybe Gustafson over Vasilevsky in for like my top 3. But to me, Kemper's a no-brainer. I mean, Hellebuyck's a no-brainer because like most shutouts, best save percentage, best goals against average, played the most games. I think if you are dominating every single category, it's really not a competition.
And he's the first player to do it since Carey Price,
Right.
which is a huge.
Impressive. Now, the difference was Carey Price could get it done in the playoffs as well. But again, these are regular season awards, right? So good on Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah. I did have a different pick. I picked Bob Ver.
Sergei Bobrovsky.
Thank you. I forgot his name a second. Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, I just think in this past decade, he's probably the biggest franchise, most consistent goalie. And I think he's got to get some type of credit for everything that he's done. So I did pick Bob. But yes, if you look at by the numbers and how valuable he was for the team, hands down, Connor Hellebuyck is the right pick.
Hey, Dan, don't get me wrong. Bobrovsky had a pretty good year this year. Like,
he played 58 games. He only lost 19 games. Like, he played very well.
There's no denying that. 5 shutouts, but, only a 906 save percentage and a 2.44 goals against average. That's just not comparable to.
Yeah, I know. I get that. I totally get that. But when you're when you're up by 1, you need that giant save in 10 seconds up in the third period. Besides a Marc-Andre Fleury in his prime, Carey Price in their prime, who else do you want? Sergei Bobrovsky.
Now, funny enough, though, that's not how they really look at the Vezina
I get that.
candidate goaltender. I'll be honest, I think a guy that we could be seeing winning Vezinas very soon is Dustin Wolf. I thought Dustin Wolf had an incredible season in Calgary. Another guy that really was a huge factor to the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames made the playoffs. I might have been talking Dustin Wolf for the Hart. And you guys might have been telling me to read my book, but what do you? I'm assuming Lane and Chazzy, you guys kind of feel though like Connor Hellebuyck, no brainer.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. But yeah, I agree with you, Jacob. Everything you said. It's just at the end of the day, yeah, playoffs is a different story for him, and that's something Winnipeg desperately needs to figure out how they can bring that Connor Hellebuyck from the regular season into the postseason. That he's a different player in that, but for the regular season, 100% agree. I think this is like, the book is shot, in my opinion.
Now it's interesting going to the Ted Lindsay Award. This is the award that I find more interesting than the Hart, because this is the league's most outstanding player voted by the Players Association. So actually voted by the players.
So we can't comment on this one.
We can do whatever the hell we want. But like the players themselves said Nikita Kucherov is the best player in the NHL.
Chazzy's point.
What Chazzy said. So it's interesting. I don't know if you guys agree, but it's very seldomly whoever wins the Hart doesn't win the Lindsay.
I have those
players and the GMs and like the media see this very differently.
Yeah. Kucherov is a special player. Maybe his off-ice attitude and the way he presents himself doesn't really represent the game the best, but what he does on the ice, you can't dispute that.
But he backs it up.
Exactly. I actually like his swagger. I think it's awesome.
I'm sorry, but if any other player did it, they would have got in trouble.
No,
they just don't have his talent.
They do
like
have
the fact that the NHL doesn't try to hide their superstars behind Bibles and suits. They let them be what they be, and they are what they are. And I like
that's a total farce. That is a total farce. But
well, maybe not the suits part, but
I am not going to get in that argument with you because the Streakers On podcast, we do not want a 12-hour marathon of this because when Dan and I get arguing, it doesn't end. But the other finalists were Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. Funny enough, all 3 players for the Ted Lindsay Award were all 3 players we mentioned for the Hart.
That's
so
right.
Maybe we're thinking the way the players on the ice do. See, our brain, big brain. Our brain is like Actually,
We're connected.
a dry brain means a smart brain. A like big swollen wet brain is actually very unhealthy. So we have like good brains.
Yeah.
Well, I bet you have flaky hair, then. That's not good.
But also too, Kucherov also did win the Art Ross with the most points in the NHL with 121.
So
Let's
yeah,
debate that. No, we can't debate that.
Well, no, you can't debate that. You either got the most points or you didn't.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think Nikita Kucherov, I agree. You know, he kind of like I kind of see what Jacob is saying. Like, he's not a good representation of the league. He's not.
He's terrible. Even in the All-Star weekend, but when it wasn't Four Nations, the guy's just being a total ass. And yes, we can say that on our pre-recorded show. And like wasn't trying whatsoever and just basically looked hungover. Like, I'm sorry, but I think he was. Come on, don't tell me he wasn't. Like, the guy's
I'm just saying he probably was. He's not going to hide it.
He is a phenomenal player.
We're going to have a nice time.
I am not denying Nikita. This could be a whole argument in the NHL, but Nikita Kucherov is a phenomenal player, but he is an absolute disgrace to the league for representing it. And I don't know why they use him in the marketing. I don't know why he gets a bunch of, I don't know why Don Cherry back in the day couldn't sponsor beer, but Nikita Kucherov could do a press conference drunk out of his mind, shirtless.
I think it's because he's got so much. Jacob, at the end of the day, though, it's like he's got the most. You could argue he's got the most skill up there. He goes and puts up back to back the most points in the NHL in the regular season.
Why is everyone freaking out that LeBron James did warm up 6 hours before game in sweatpants? There was a whole big blow up about it in the NBA circle because
there's nothing else to talk about in the NBA. It's boring.
Talk about in the NBA. This is during the NBA playoffs, but at the end of the day, the NBA does hold their players to a certain standard, which is something the NHL should be doing because you're not just being paid to be an athlete. If you just want to be paid to be an athlete, go play in some rec league. You are being paid as a professional. When I show up to work, even if I was the best person at the world at my job, I have to show up sober and I have to show up properly dressed. Wow. NHL should be getting on these players more because they also want to go on, look, we want to be representing the youth, the community, and blah, blah, blah. Well, then make it so especially your players who are considered tier 1 players, which Nikita Kucherov clearly is. But rant ended. Let's get back to the awards.
But he must be doing something right for the other players to vote for him.
Exactly.
There must be. There's more. Yeah.
He is the best player in the league. Like, there's no denying that. He's the best player in the league.
Whoa,
right
better Connor McDavid.
Yes, right now he's better than Connor McDavid.
Well, he is.
Got eliminated in first round.
Yes.
I know I missed the post game last night, but Connor's got to shoot.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was screaming at the TV.
Shoot the puck. To the Norris trophy, which is for the best defenseman. Cale Makar winning that. However,
I'm way off the map again.
I am shocked that Jacob Slavin wasn't even in the top 4.
Really? Wasn't? Oh my gosh! You're right. I didn't think of that.
Zach Werenski and Quinn Hughes, and I'm sorry, Quinn Hughes. If he played a full season, I could see it.
Oh, for sure.
He did not play a full season, and also too, I find it kind of weird. Hey, these are the best defensemen in the league. By the way, only one of them made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is what I was getting on about the awards when I was talking about earlier, right? Like they will never give.
Norris Trophy.
They won't even. They just don't give people credit if they aren't flashy and can't be marketable.
Exactly, I agree.
You know, Jacob Slavin at the end of the day is, and I've been hyping up this guy's train. I know when we were in the playoffs, second round, I wouldn't shut up about Jacob Slavin, but at the end of the day, he is a fantastic player. Yes, he may only get 14 points. Yes, he doesn't do a lot offensively, but the way he plays the defensive role, we're talking about defense. We're not talking about flashy, dashy offense. We're talking about defense, and the way he plays defense is bar none exceptional beyond any player on that ice. I don't care what anyone says.
I want to ask you guys then: should the defensive award be split to best offensive defenseman and best defensive defenseman?
Yes.
Because right now, pretty much whoever gets the most points is a defenseman. Besides when the guy in Nashville, UC Saros not UC Saros. He's a goalie, but there was it was a defenseman on Nashville. Got it a couple years ago. But besides of that year, it's pretty much if you get the most points as a defenseman, Roman Josi. As long as you get the most points as a defenseman, you win the Norris. You could argue that Victor Hedman's the best defenseman. He wasn't in this top. You could argue Jacob Slavin. You want to talk about pure defensive defensemen, you could argue Chris Tanev. You had the Brendan Tanev. You had the most blocked shots out of any defenseman in the NHL. Like, is that more important than a defenseman who can skate really fast, right? Like,
I'll even ask, where was Lane Hudson? Like, I can't believe I'm saying this. His first year led rookie scoring. Like, I hate to say it, but like, I know it's not like he's not like Cale Makar. I'm not trying to say he is. I'm just saying, but where is he?
Could be a couple of years quite easily.
A couple of years, yeah. I was really surprised though about Quinn. I wasn't surprised about Werenski, but I was surprised about Quinn Hughes being third, considering he missed a good chunk of the year.
If he didn't miss it, I would have given it Quinn Hughes.
I think if he didn't miss it, he probably wins it. But I don't know how you can be third and miss a third of the year.
So my answer was kind of more like Dasko's way of thinking. In my answer of winning defense, I should have picked Chris Tanev. That would have been a good pick. But I actually went with Ryan McDonough out of Tampa Bay. And the reason why I went with Ryan McDonough out of Tampa Bay is he has played over 1,000 games. He got a silver stick this year. And I kind of thought he was kind of at the end of his career. He led the league in plus minus with a plus 43. Okay, let that sink in. Plus 43 on Tampa, which is an offensive team that barely made the playoffs. I mean, this is insane how good Ryan McDonough is at his age. And it's like what Mr. Dasko says. I think the best defenseman should go with someone that can play a two-way game, someone that's actually good at defenseman. And yeah, I get Cale Makar is not necessarily defensive reliability, but are you going to put him out on 5-on-3 penalty kill?
Colorado does, actually.
I don't know.
Colorado does, but I do see your point.
And I think a defenseman, you really should. The other thing I want to mention about Ryan McDonough, I mean, he also played over 20 minutes a game at the age 36, okay? Like, to me, to play that many minutes on the game and still be a plus 43 is just insane. So, and, yeah.
So I had a different pick than you, Dan, funny enough, but from the same team, and I was going with Victor Hedman.
That's a good pick,
Victor Hedman's to a plus 18, 66 points in 79 games, 15 goals, 51 assists. So, like, he is a very, very good two-way defenseman. This guy, he's 34 years old and is an absolute monster on the back end. Like, and at the end of the day, I knew Cale Makar was going to win this award. I wasn't questioning it. And I'm not even saying it was just necessarily the wrong decision with the way they do the award for best defenseman. In my opinion, though, it's either actually I would have said Jacob Slavin, but I know Lane was going to say Jacob Slavin. I think Lane wants to take Slavin out to dinner and feed him cocoa. But Chazzy, who are you thinking for defense? Do you think we're all out to lunch, or and you think Cale Makar was the clear winner for the Norris? Or are you seeing our points about defensive defenseman versus offensive defenseman?
No, I do like a Cale Makar. So anytime you get 30 goals from your point. I don't know, and he still led the league. And what did he have, like a 12 or 13 point streak within the season?
He did.
So I don't know. You're getting that out of your point around the Colorado. I'm just a huge fan. I think Colorado's going to be contending for the Cup next year.
But then to ask you, then Chazzy, the last defenseman to do that was Mike Green. Was Mike Green the best defenseman in the league when he scored 30 goals?
Oh, not nowhere near Makar. But I'm saying anytime you can get 30 goals from the point.
If you actually
put up 60, what do you have? 60, I don't know, 60, I don't know what he had for assists, but 90 something points on the year.
Yeah, I think he was, I could look it up. I think he was over 80.
I think he was in like 90 something points, no?
I totally get why they picked Cale Makar. I think they easily could have picked Quinn Hughes if he played the full year. I think if Quinn Hughes played the full year, he could have won the MVP because, like Mark Seifley, when he was out of the lineup, holy cow, Vancouver felt it, right?
He could have had 70 apples. Quentin Hughes. He had 60.
Oh, my goodness.
But I think he only played like 65 or 68 games or something like that.
Which that's also the thing, though. I have a hard time when someone says they're the best at their position when they couldn't play the whole season. But
Cale Makar had 92 points. There is a plus
92. So, yeah,
that's
okay.
pretty
So
good.
So we have 92 points in 80 games. I'm just hear me out for a sec. 30 goals, 62 assists.
80 games.
Hear me out here. Hear me out. Mike Green in 08-09, 31 goals, 42 assists, 73 points, plus 24. If Mike Green played every game, that's comparable numbers to Cale Makar. So that's why I'm saying points.
Well, what did he do the year before that?
Year before that, 18 goals, 38 assists, 56 points. Year after that, 19 goals, 57 assists, 76 points. Mind you, Mike Green in those years was a plus 39 and a plus 24. Cale Makar was a plus 28. Very comparable numbers. Very comparable. All I'm saying is I don't know if necessarily the highest point total defenseman is necessarily the best defenseman in the league. I really think you need a offensive defenseman of the year and defensive defenseman of the year because
they have defensive forward of the year.
If I need a defenseman to win a puck battle in the corner, I want Luke Schenn over Cale Makar. I'm just being honest with you. But if I'm looking at an overall all-around player, sure. But then is it the best player or the best defenseman? Cale Makar's a better player. Brandon Tanev's maybe a bit of a better defensive defenseman, right? So that's the whole argument of what should the Norris be. I don't like it now how the Norris is just, and I'm not saying Cale Makar is only an offensive defenseman because that is not the case.
He's like that generational play. It's like the Tiger Woods effect.
I agree.
Good. No one's talking about the runner-ups. They're just talking about Tiger Woods and his wins.
No, I totally agree.
It's just like you said with Green, yes, comparable numbers, but who was that generational player that was the Cale Makar of that time?
All I'm getting at is when I said to you right away, you're like, oh, there's no way Mike Green had comparable numbers to Cale Makar. Then we looked at his numbers. In some ways, they were actually a little bit better. He would have been on pace for more goals. He had a better plus minus.
He was underrated.
And
he really was. Yeah, everyone's so busy watching Ovechkin.
Quentin Hughes in 68 games had 16 goals, 60 assists, 76 points, but only a plus 2. Now, mind you, Vancouver is a bad team. Let's just be honest. It's just interesting, right? And it's something that I think that award needs to be split into 2 awards.
I think if Quentin Hughes stays healthy, he could win the Hart next year.
But here's the award that I think Chazzy and I are going to argue on quite a bit.
Oh, this one, I'm heated about this one.
Trophy. So Lane Hudson won it. By the way, am I not saying Lane Hudson had a remarkable rookie campaign?
Oh, he did.
Yes, he did.
He did.
Actually, you know what? I think there's going to be a lot of arguments across this whole room here. So buckle up, as Argo fans want to say, watching Nick Arbuckle barely being able to move the ball down the field. But I think it should have been Dustin Wolf, without even a question. As a goalie, hear me out. I
agree with Jacob on this one.
To put up those numbers was absolutely insane. Never mind a guy that was coming in who was not even expected. Some people said is an AHL goalie this year still coming into this season. And it was Dan Vladar's team. And Calgary losing Jacob Markstrom were going to be absolutely terrible.
That's the other thing, too. They're on a terrible team.
Dustin Wolf came in and led this team to missing the playoffs by basically 1 point.
Yeah.
I think Celebrini is an incredible player, but he did not have enough of an impact to me on the San Jose Sharks to win the Calder in this year. Because I think you could have argued Mitchkov in Philly was maybe the most overall talented rookie.
That was my other argument if it wasn't Dustin Wolf. I would have given it to Mitchkov because I think he really has the potential to be a franchise player.
Mitchkov's an incredible generational talent with a coach he put up great numbers with a coach that benched him half the time for no reason.
Yeah,
I just want to read you some stats from Dustin Wolf because you guys, I can see everyone's looking at me like I'm a little crazy.
No, I agree with you.
A 2.64 goals against average, a 910 save percentage, and 3 shutouts as a rookie. So, as a rookie, he put up a better goals against average than Bobrovsky and a better save percentage than Bobrovsky, who we argue is the best goalie in the league. He put up better numbers than Anthony Stolarz, who was 5th in the Vezina voting. He did this on a team that I'd say Calgary's okay at best. I think Calgary, about Dustin Wolf, is probably going for a lottery draft pick this season.
Yeah, 100%.
Which you could make the same argument about Lane Hudson in Montreal, and I think he got it because he broke the record for most assists by a rookie defenseman.
What he did was incredible.
Opinion, what Dustin Wolf did, by the way, too, he's an undersized goalie as well, only 6 feet, 166 pounds. That's undersized for the NHL and for a netminder now. So what Dustin Wolf was able to do this year was absolutely incredible. And no one saw it coming. And that's why, for me, he was my rookie of the year pick. Most skilled rookie, I actually think it's Michkov, but he didn't deserve to be in this conversation because at the end of the day, he couldn't put up the numbers because John Tortorella would bench him because he didn't like the way he combed his hair. John Tortorella is that kind of coach. And I think if you put Michkov on a different team, he very well could have won rookie of the year this year.
For sure.
Blaine, you look like you completely disagree with me. Chazzy, I'm assuming you disagree with me, but you have a very calm demeanor. So I don't know. One of you take the floor.
Well, I can't yell because I don't want to get kicked out because I am in my living room. So my roommates are upstairs. I don't want to get evicted. But I want to put, I honestly believe that Macklin Celebrini was sort of robbed here tonight. And you guys may think I'm crazy, but I do have stats to think. So Connor Bedard won this award in his first year. 68 games, 61 points, and a -44. And everyone said how that was some phenomenal season and that, wow,
I did.
No kidding. That wasn't even that good. You look at Macklin Celebrini, 70 games, 63 points, and a -31. But here's the difference, right? Calgary, at least you got Huberdeau, you got Weegar, you got Anderson, you got Kadri. They have players on their team. You look at Montreal Canadiens, you got Ryan Suzuki, you got players who can play. What does San Jose have? They have absolutely nothing. It's a bunch of 18-year-olds that go out there with a goalie that stands there as a dummy who cannot make a save, even if the puck was a Dodge Ram truck coming at him at 1 mile an hour.
Johnny the truck.
Yeah, literally.
They have no defense. They're all young 18-year-olds. Their goalie is atrocious. This plastic red cup could make more saves than their goalie can make on an average night.
The only thing I will say is a -31 is pretty bad. I do want to put that out there. Now,
but Bedard was a -45, and everyone said
that was who was better than Connor Bedard last year. Last year was weak. As a fourth liner half the time was in the conversation for rookie of the year. The rookie class last year was really bad. The rookie class this year was very good.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. I don't know.
Mind you, though, Lane, do I think you're out to lunch by saying Macklin Celebrini was the best rookie this year? Not at all.
I think he's way better than Michkov. No offense, though. Michkov's had time to go play in the KHL and
completely different game, though.
Yeah, I like this Michkov boy. He's going to be a high, especially the new coaching in Philly. He's going to be a franchise player in Philadelphia. You watch.
But he didn't have to come in at 18 and try to fend for the Sharks.
Michkov in 80 games, 26 goals, 37 assists, 63 points, only a -18 on, I would say, an equally bad team. And this is a kid that was getting benched for third periods at least once every 2 weeks because that's just John Tortorella's style. Did Michkov deserve rookie of the year this year? Absolutely not. Might he be the best out of this class 3-4 years down the road? It's very possible. And I do think with Celebrini, you are forgetting he was playing with Tyler Toffoli, who had an electric year this year. So we did have someone to pass to. Connor Bedard's rookie year, he was playing with Nick Foligno.
That's my bad. I call him Ryan Toffoli, but I meant Tyler Toffoli.
But
I know who Ryan Toffoli is.
But no, I don't think you're out to lunch lane, though, by saying Macklin Celebrini. Macklin Celebrini is a phenomenal talent. I think I watch out for him even to make the Olympic team this year coming up, considering how well we played with Sid the Kid and the World Hockey Championship, although they lost to
you know what?
Denmark.
And the one more thing I want to give him credit for, and I know this was a little bit of a dig, but I didn't like how Connor Bedard said that he didn't feel like he needed to go play in that little tournament after the playoffs there or during the playoffs. He felt like he didn't need the practice with Sid the Kid. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
you don't need.
I agree with that.
Why would you not?
Ridiculous.
I don't need to go. I don't need to.
Greatest player in NHL history.
I don't need to go learn from someone like that. And then Macklin Celebrini, who actually I gotta give credit, had a little shut up, being like, "Oh, I'm having fun playing over here with Sid. It's not my second year, but I'll definitely take the advice." It was a little more of a friendly dig at him, but
exactly.
At least Celebrini went to go learn and say, "Hey, I want to go learn from the best."
I'll say Connor Bedard and Mitch Marner deserve each other.
However, I do want to get back to Lane Hutson, who won Rookie of the Year. And I do want to say, first of all, I'm not saying he didn't deserve it when I think it should have went to Dustin Wolf. 6 goals, 60 assists, for 66 points, only a -2. And I think we got to add his team made the playoffs. And I think maybe that's what it came down to.
Probably. Oh,
he
for
was
sure.
enough of an impact to get his team to the dance. And in the playoffs, he was a -5, but he did have 5 assists.
It was definitely that after deadline push because
Lane
I believe
he's an incredible player. He could be the next Cale Makar.
Lane, he's a pick of me. That's the same name as you. I just
I'm not saying he's not. I just think I just get upset when they want to talk about how good centers are, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but you want to give it to this guy, but you don't want to give it to the guy who has literally better stats. But I will say, Lane Hudson after the deadline, and I know Chazzy would agree with me. Montreal was kind of in that it was like Montreal and Columbus kind of fighting to see who would get it, and Lane Hudson just was like, yeah, hold my beer, guys, let's go.
Yeah.
So Chazzy, I'm curious about your opinion on this. Like, how do you feel about Lane Hudson winning the Rookie of the Year?
Oh, phenomenal. Wore the hat all week. Future's bright in Montreal for next year.
It is.
It is.
Montreal's got a lot of studs, and their AHL team is also very good. Now, I want to move on to the Selke Award, and I think
they made it to the finals. Did they? The Montreal AHL team called the Cup.
Now let's move on to the Selke.
Right now, I think it's Charlotte, and they're in the finals right now, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
The Selke went to
AHL to streak us out, by the way, everybody.
The Selke. I'm gonna get there. Went to Sasha Barkov, which Selke is awarded to the forward who demonstrates the most skill in the defensive component of its game. Before we get into the second and third, Dan, how the heck do you think Protas deserves the Selke from Washington?
Yeah, I went way off the map. I love this Protas guy. No one talks about him, but I really think he's one of the sweeper, most underrated players in the NHL. I'll tell you why. Besides of Ryan McDonough with a +43, do you know what forward led the NHL in plus-minus? Anyone know? That's right. It was Protas with a +40.
That's insane.
And it is. And that's with playing with Ovi, who is a defensive reliability, and Washington's not a defensive first team. And in 76 games, he had 30 goals and 66 points. He had a 21% shooting average, and he played 16 minutes a game. I mean, I think he's a future two-way dominant forward in this league. It's only his third year. He came out very slow as a younger guy. But in his third year to be the best forward and plus-minus with a +40, I mean, I really think he should have been in the conversation.
Well, I'm glad I got through a couple pages of my book. Protas is a good player. To say he is better defensively than Sasha Barkov, you are literally insane. Sasha Barkov, I think, is the Finnish Sidney Crosby. He's showing it in the Stanley Cup playoffs again in the regular season. I think if there's an award in the NHL for most underrated player in the NHL, it would go to Sasha Barkov. This guy is just absolutely incredible. So any hardware he gets, I don't think you can even argue it. Yeah, Anthony Cirelli and Sam Reinhart were the other two. Who cares? There's no one else that's even close to me. Maybe Sidney Crosby, and that's about it.
I almost said Sidney Crosby.
I don't know, Blaine.
He's got to be a conversation every year, in my opinion.
But I don't see anyone who deserves this more than Sasha Barkov in the NHL.
I completely agree with you, Jacob, to be honest. I think this is another book slam shut case. You know, I was going to send another video about this because I wasn't sure if I was going to be here tonight. But in my video, I said, Sasha Barkov, at the end of the day, he does everything you could ever want from a center. He shuts down every player in the league with what looks like limitless effort. Like, it looks like he's not even trying to shut you down. It just looks like he was born out of the womb knowing how to shut you down. It looks like when he was a baby, he was shutting down the nurse. He was like, oh no, not can't get me. But I'm joking. But no, he just looks like he was born to be this position. He can score at will. He can put up points. He's great at getting assists. He's great at getting goals. He's great at shutting down. I think it's like him and Kopitar, in my opinion, are 1 and 2. I just think Sasha Barkov is better. But I think him and Kopitar are right up there with some of the best defensive players in the game.
Well, you got to look at Barkov too. With being such a good shutdown centerman, he still managed to put up 71 points and 67.
That's what I'm saying.
Goals, 51 assists. Like it's Chazzy. I don't know how you're feeling about it, but I don't really think it's even a competition.
No, I think they have this one right.
So
one thing I will say though, someone you gotta give credit to in this conversation. I'm surprised I kept quiet. I thought for sure Chazzy would have said this guy. But I would gotta say you gotta put Nick Suzuki in that conversation. Like he's a lot, maybe not this year, but Nick Suzuki's getting a lot better defensively. And the other person I gotta say is Austin Matthews. I mean, he's not getting his 70 goals the way he used to, and he's getting a lot better defensively. So maybe in a couple of years,
Matthews take, you're not completely out to lunch because
maybe not this year, but maybe in a couple of years, Matthews and Suzuki will be in this compensation.
And the cool thing is about Barkov, he also won the King Clancy Award, and this is really cool. Jacob, you would like this. He's the player who gets the best leadership off and on the ice, and also does noteworthy humanitarian to their own community. So there's a player, we were talking about players that, you don't get just paid to go on the ice and look fancy and sell jerseys. You also get money to be a professional. And this is another guy who goes out in his own community, takes time to meet kids that have sicknesses, and goes and signs autographs for local kids and helps out his local community. So not only is he a great player on the ice, but he's also doing great work in charity off this. I got to give him a lot of credit for doing that as well.
Yeah, that's very good of him doing that. And I think it takes responsibility as a captain of a team. You got even more responsibility to take leadership off the ice. I mean, I've given props to many players on the island before. I mean, you look at Ovechkin, all the community work he does. He does tons and millions of dollars. You look at John Tavares when he was the captain of Maple Leafs, he did tons. You look at Austin Matthews now, he does tons too. Sam Bennett's another one on Florida. I think this is one reason why Florida is where they are. It's not just the product on the ice. They're so good in the dressing room with such good leaders. I mean, Sam Bennett does tons of community, him and his wife together do tons of community work for pets and animals in the state of Florida. And that is crucial. I mean, we could probably go on for hours about different players that make a major difference. Connor McDavid in Edmonton. We could go on forever and ever. I'm sorry I'm leaving guys out. There's too many people, not too many people on the list, but it shows you what a great job the NHL does overall at giving back to the community.
But you know who we can't forget about? The coaches. So let's get into the Jack Adams Award, which is the last major award that we're going to talk about before we get into some of our awards. And the Jack Adams Award was awarded to the Capitals head coach, Spencer Cranberry. I think this is a terrible pick.
Yeah.
What? Terrible.
What?
It's great that you won a bunch of games in a weak division. Congratulations. My pick for coach of the year was Marty St. Louis. You took a team that no one thought would make the playoffs, and they made the playoffs. Marty St. Louis finished third. You expected Washington to be better this year. Everyone did. I did. I thought Washington the year before.
Crazy, John.
I thought Washington. You know what? I'll give myself the clown book for my take if you would like. But at the end of the day,
twice, Jacob.
I look at Marty St. Louis, and he took a team that everyone thought would be DO double dog poop and turned them into a team that made it to the playoffs and gave that Washington Capitals team a run for their money in the playoffs. Yes, it was 5, but either 2 or 3 of them went to overtime. Marty St. Louis, by far, is the best coach in the NHL. He made Patrick Laine back check every once in a while. He turned Hudson into a guy that is 5'9" but can actually defend. Oh, I know. We're gonna work. I'm gonna go out with my GM and bring in Sam Montembeault, who was on waivers. Oh, by the way, I'm going to make him a goalie that went and represented his country. I'm going to turn Nick Suzuki into one of the better two-way centers in the league. I'm going to revitalize Sean Monahan 2 years ago. There's all these things that Marty St. Louis has done, and you look at that Montreal team on paper. Oh, by the way, too, you know what, Cole Caulfield? Yeah, absolute sniper all of a sudden as soon as he comes to Montreal. Everyone who comes to Montreal becomes a better player.
That's true.
Everyone said they were out to lunch with all these decisions they made. Yet Marty St. Louis took the land of misfit toys and made them a playoff team. So there is no doubt in my mind the easy pick is either Washington or Winnipeg. Just take the teams that got the most points. They have the best coach. Boom, we're done. Well, that's boring. I want to take a coach that took a crappy team, no offense, Chazzy, and turn them into a playoff team. Did anyone have on their bingo card the Montreal Canadiens making the playoffs this year?
No.
Even you, Chazzy, as a Habs fan, did you actually think they were going to make the playoffs this year?
Absolutely, even if it was 8.
Well, you are more optimistic than most. But
absolutely.
Optimistic max.
Marty St. Louis deserved the Jack Adams Award head over heels. And I think it's a disservice to coaching that a guy took a mediocre team and made them a playoff team.
Yeah.
Well, by that logic, then why is, I'll just keep it a buck. Why isn't Dean Evanson Coach of the Year? We're talking about the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Travis D. Donnelly. But think about this, Jacob.
I mean, you could argue it though.
They lost their first line winger due to a travesty where the whole team, where you thought you had this awesome team coming in, where you're like, we've got all this talent and all this thing, and then you have a travesty blow that goes right through the dressing room, knocks out the morale of every single player, and you only finished 1 point out of the playoffs when this team
is give them some respect for that.
100%. When every other year before this, they were basically a bottom dwelling team that everyone was like, oh, nobody wants to go play there, and everyone thinks this is a losing culture and a losing. It's just what you're saying about Montreal. Everyone said, nobody wants to go play in Columbus. Who wants to go play in Columbus, Ohio? This place sucks. And this guy took a team that literally was not even supposed to even do something, was able to get this morale to a team to actually go play every night and almost get them in a playoff. So I could argue he was just as impactful.
You know what, though? Actually, Lane, by that conversation, that argument there, you could argue Columbus Blue Jackets head coach should have won Coach of the Year. And I think the Jack Adams Award shouldn't just go to the coach that got the most points. I really don't.
It looks like all three of us, we'll have to see what Chazzy's answer is. Looks like all three of us went off the board.
I have no idea who you wrote down.
I went off the board too. I didn't know how to spell his name because I
don't know who
am brilliant as a calculator, but I'm terrible as an English teacher. My pick is Craig Berube.
Oh, Berube!
Oh my God!
Okay, guys, quickly. Dan, I'm terrible at spelling as well. Lane literally fixes everything I put in the script. But Dan put Berube as B-R-U-M-E.
Brownie.
Okay, Dan, why Craig Berube? He took a good team, and they were continued to be good. Okay, they won the division.
I'll tell you why. I think as a coach, it's easy to do what Washington did, turn a good team into a good team. I get that. But my opinion, a good coach does is change the DNA of the team.
It didn't change.
It did.
You won one more game.
It did. He made Toronto. He made Toronto way more defensively, way more tough, and way more physical.
And we still lost to the Florida Panthers.
No, but he's my choice because he made Austin Matthews one of the best two-way players in the league. He made John Tavares skate. John Tavares had one of the best seasons he had in 8 years. You got guys like Chris Tanev and Jake McCabe who are phenomenal defensemen. Like Max Domi played well. I don't know.
Max Domi played well. Okay, I had to leave the room because I was fed up with this, but come back. Max Domi was bloody terrible. Craig Berube is a good coach. Just say he's the coach of the year. I would screw it. John Tortorella should win Coach of the Year because Mitchkov was able to put up okay numbers. Now, you know what? Coach of the Year, let's give it to the Dallas Stars coach for blowing a clinching series game in the most spectacular way. Craig Berube is a good coach. You cannot give Coach of the Year to a coach that made a good team.
Even Brad Marchand said it. Playing Toronto this year was different. Was tougher. Okay, everyone playing Toronto this year said it was more difficult to play.
They're just not as tough as us, Florida. That's what he meant.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Well,
so Craig, who's your pick then?
yeah, I was gonna say, Craig, I need some sanity here.
Well, of course, I'm with you with Marty St. Louis, and you talk about DNA and winning culture and like this championship pedigree, that's all over Marty St. Louis. But if I had an alternative pick, I would say Travis Green in Ottawa.
Ooh,
Or give
that's a
him
good one, too.
consideration for
not
Travis Green.
Again,
Hopefully next year, because if they can keep that locker room together, they could, I don't know, next year make it past that first round, which they haven't done in a long time.
I can't wait for the offseason talk, and I'm going to tease it right now when I say the Ottawa Senators should trade Brady Tkachuk. And I can't wait to argue
Oh, what?
because you guys are going to think I'm absolutely crazy, but they should trade Brady Tkachuk.
What?
But I'm going to move on.
That's really crazy. And we say Craig Blueberry deserves coach of the year.
I'm
Ryan McDonough deserves defenseman of the year.
Let's go in now to our best.
Wow.
One of our best awards. And these are a little bit different. So I want to say who is the best bottom pairing defenseman in the NHL. And I believe Morfor and I have the same pick.
Well, for me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's Luke Sen. Luke Sen is a veteran journeyman of six defensemen. Okay? He's the ultimate sixth defenseman. Every sixth defenseman in the league wants to be Luke Sen. I mean, he leagues one of the top headers in NHL history, block shots, and then one of the most block shots in NHL history. And boy, can he fight! Wow. I mean, when he was in juniors, he was called a human eraser. Okay, I mean, like he shouldn't even be a bottom six defenseman, in my opinion. But reality is, he's on good teams like Tampa, Toronto, and Winnipeg. He is a bottom six defenseman, and yeah, I will say, since Jacob and I picked the same pick, one guy I think you. Oh, you know what? I'll leave this because maybe Lane or Chazzy has this guy, so I'll wait till they finish.
I will go last.
I'm trying to click.
So, Chazzy, who are you thinking for best bottom six defenseman in the NHL?
I'm just going off his playoff is Harley out of Dallas.
Oh, nice one.
Just what he did in the playoffs there.
But certainly a guy that no one thought would be this good.
That's a great pick.
I could see that. I'll give Lane some time to think. I think he's pondering my. Maybe I'm still just shocked about how I'm saying the Senators should trade Brady Tkachuk. My original pick was Luke Shen, but I sided with my nice brother and let Dan have it. And I'm going to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm going to take Simone Benoit.
That's the other one I was going to say.
Simone Benoit he had a really strong campaign this year for the Leafs with 10 points and a plus 12 in 78 games. Very, very physical. In the playoffs, also had a good impact. Great mustache. Undrafted. He's a guy that's really been able to make a massive, massive impact to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Funny enough, you could also go in the Leafs and go to Oliver Ekman-Larsson on a bottom pairing defenseman. He's another guy that's had a very strong campaign. But, yeah, for me, I would have said Luke Shen originally, but Simone Benoit was my secondary pick for that. Funny enough, Kevin Biesca always went on that he was the best sixth defenseman in the NHL. It's kind of like in the NBA, who's the best sixth man in the league. So, Lane, have you had enough time to ponder this?
Yeah, I'm just trying to look. I was trying to see if I could think about someone better than Luke Shen, but I think I got to agree with you. The only one I would maybe give it to, and I was trying to think, I don't know if he's better than Luke Shen, but I want to give a shout out to Philip Broberg. He was a guy, coming into the year that was, left open in the Edmonton Oilers. Funny enough, we talk about their defense not really being that strong, and they kind of just said, "Well, we don't want him. You can take him." And, St. Louis here was a team that, coming into the year, a lot of people were like,
wow.
"Oh, this team, they probably won't make the playoffs this year," but you got to give them credit. They picked up two key players that were just on the RFA sheet. They gave up the draft picks to give them. They signed them to contracts. And Philip Broberg, who plays third line minutes on the St. Louis Blues, was a key player for them this year.
That's a great pick. That's a very, very good pick. I'm a little surprised, though, that Chazzy didn't go with David Savard from Montreal. I thought he was
another one.
It's another, or maybe even I'm not going to say his name yet because he's a pick for another award that I have. Now let's move on to the best bottom six forward in the NHL. And I'm going to start off right off the hop and say it's Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand is by far the best bottom six forward in the NHL. Plays on the third line for the Florida Panthers. He's a bottom six forward. Plays on the third line. Wow. That's how good he is. You don't even think of him as a bottom six forward. And Brad Marchand is the best bottom six forward in the NHL. He makes an impact in minimal ice time, and he is a real difference maker. Now, if you're going to get all whatever about it and you want to say that he's too good for that award,
No.
I just think my other pick would be Connor Brown.
Yeah.
Connor Brown's a really good two-way player, got lots of speed, can move up and down your lineup. So I did 2 picks because I run the show and I can do whatever the hell I want. And that's how it goes. But Mr. Chazzy 6.1, who is your bottom six forward of the year?
Well, I'm a little biased because I like this player when he was in Ottawa, but Pajot, just for his penalty killing. And I didn't realize how many, like, he still lays a lot of hits. I think he hit over 200 hits this year. So I don't know. That's a guy that you're, especially on that penalty kill.
That's a great pick in Pajot. I thought that Ottawa lost a real gem in him, and he was a big part of the Islanders.
I know, I'm surprised they let him go, but
so was I.
He's done okay.
Yeah, he hasn't been quite the same in the Islanders.
I disagree with you. He has made he has been a big difference in the Islanders on some of those deep playoff runs on that penalty kill. Maybe he doesn't put up the points, but he does what the Islanders want him to do. So, Mr. Moore, for your money, who's your bottom six forward of the year?
Well, I actually picked a fourth line player, unlike everyone else so far. And I picked
bottom six. That's
what?
Third and fourth line. Get wrecked.
Okay,
but anyway,
I did pick a fourth liner. And I picked Steven Lorenz. I've talked about this guy many times on the Island here. I just love this guy. He came in a training camp on a professional tryout, okay? Not even an NHL contract, okay? He got the NHL contract. He plays for the league minimum. Everyone on the Leafs say that he works the hardest in practice and is the most faithful guy to be there and be a Toronto Maple Leaf. And I totally agree with that. I mean, it's a lot of pressure of the media being in Leaf land, and he just takes it. And, yeah, in the playoffs, he only got 2 assists. But he was so good at forechecking. He did get 13 shots. He was so good at spending time in the offensive end, which is very unusual for a fourth liner. In the regular season, he played 80 games, which a lot of fourth liners don't play almost every game. He played over 10 minutes a game, which is, again, really good at a fourth liner. His shooting percentage was over 10%, which is unheard of for a fourth liner. And out of those 8 goals, this is why he's my favorite. Out of those 8 goals, 5 of them were game winners. 5. That is amazing, in my opinion. And that's why he's my bottom 6 forward of the year.
What's your pick, Lane? I do agree with you, Dan. That's a great pick.
Well, I'm going with another Leaf, and I hope he comes back. And I heard he is actually likely to return, and that's my buddy Max Pacioretty.
Yes.
For similar reasons, here's another player that was, at the beginning of the season, everyone was like, "Well, Max Pacioretty might have to hang up the skates. Nobody seems to want him." And then the Leafs were like, "Well, you can try out here and see what happens in a preseason game." Got the job, and then all of a sudden, here's Max Pacioretty not only getting key goals in the regular season, but was getting some key goals in the playoffs, something that Steven Lorenz unfortunately didn't do. Yeah. At least Max Pacioretty actually scored this series-winning goal against the Ottawa Senators. So Max Pacioretty, I feel, was actually a huge player, jumping up to the top 6 when he had to, doing key injuries, playing, turning back the clock, getting some key points, making some key. I think he had a really good season, and I'm praying and I'm hoping he comes back. And I heard he's willing to come back to the Leafs and give it one more year, and I hope that happens.
Another guy that I do want to mention in here, which again, I think all of us have had really great picks here. Another one I would go with would be Corey Perry. I think he's Perry bottom 6 forward of the year. I didn't put it in the script, but if we had best old fart, I think Corey Perry would have got that one.
I think Max Pacioretty would have got it.
That would have been an argument. But I want to move on now to best enforcer.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited for this one.
I know this is one. Dan, I'm going to let you go first because, I mean, I think you're trying to look tough, but you didn't look tough doing that.
Well, it's more like a cheerleader with a big punch. But, yeah, I talked about this guy. I love this guy, Matt Rempe. Okay, he was amazing last year. He toned it down a little bit. But because he toned it down, he played 42 games. And in those 42 games, he had 67 penalty minutes. So he did still have quite a bit of fights. But boy, he's a centerman who's 6'9". And these guys do not want to fight him, do not want to play against him. I mean, the way this guy fights is insane. This is like, he really reminds me of like 80s to early 2000 NHL hockey. And I haven't seen someone like that in this era, really, besides a Matt Rempe. I mean, maybe Jordan Tutu back in the day, but Jordan Tutu, but he's retired now. But points and stuff, I mean, he wasn't the best, obviously. You know, he had 3 goals and 5 assists. So 8 points in 42 games, which was much better than last year. But he was a +7. So for an enforcer to be a plus player, I think it's pretty impressive too. So it shows that he can play hockey. I mean, look at Ryan Reeves. He was a liability every time he was on the ice, right? So, I mean, the fact that he was a +7 on the Rangers, that was a hopeless team with all the drama, trading Jacob Trouba and leadership and not making the playoffs. And JT Miller experiment didn't work out. He was one of the bright future spots for the New York Rangers, so I picked him.
So I'm going to go next because I wonder if Chaz and I are going to have the same pick. And I wonder if Robert Jacki. I think Robert Jacki is the guy that everyone's absolutely terrified of. And when I say I think about a top enforcer / fighter, Matt Rempe, in my opinion, all we can do is fight and get suspended. Robert Jacki can actually play hockey, and he can hit like a freaking freight train. Yeah. I was personally, Chazzy, that's who I thought you might pick for your bottom 6 defenseman in the league. Was Robert Jacki. I love this kid. He is physical. He flies all over the place. He will defend his teammates until the day that he dies. And I think that is the type of guy that you want for your top enforcer. Chazzy, were you going to say Robert Jacki as well?
Oh, hands down. And he did take out Rempe in their one bout. So
he did, yeah.
But I also think they have him as the scariest fighter, winning 14 of 18 on the season and preseason, I guess. So
that's amazing.
So, Lane, who are you taking as your enforcer of the year?
Well, it's funny. I'm going to take another guy from the Rangers, and it's the guy they traded. I'm taking Jacob Trouba. I got to give this guy some credit. I got to give this guy some credit. The Rangers called this guy out and said, he's unprofessional. He's keeping the team down. He's hurting our locker room morale. And they traded him to the Ducks. And ever since he's gone to the Ducks, they have praised this man. They're like, this guy's awesome. He comes into the locker room. He motivates the team. He goes up there and makes big hits. He makes big fights. When we're losing, he backs us up on the ice. He stands up for the young rookies. When the young guys are getting picked on, he steps in. He mentors the young defensemen. He's all over all the young guys and getting them in shape. I got to give Jacob Trouba some credit for all the crap that the Chris Drury talked about him to go to the Ducks and prove them wrong. Good on you, Jacob Trouba.
All of us had very good picks there.
So should we just say this? I know we didn't give Elvis an award, but I think we should do this. Who's the worst GM of the year?
Worst or best?
I got to say the New York Rangers GM, Chris Drury's got to be one of them.
No, I think it's Patrick Allvin by a mile, and I'll tell you why it's Patrick Allvin.
And who?
Because Vancouver.
Oh yes, I was going to say Vancouver be another one.
Because in my opinion, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like, I'll put it this way: when you got if you're running a business and you've got 2 people in your business fighting every day for months on end, this has been going on, and this isn't just something. This has been going on for 2 or 3 years now. And I don't know if you know the situation. I'll try to wrap it up as quickly as possible. But basically, it was JT Miller calling out Elias Pettersson for being just flat out lazy. That's what it is. It's not a skill. It's just that JT Miller wants to compete. He wants to go out there. Every night he wants to see the people trying on his team. And Elias Pettersson is more of a guy that just comes to the rink, puts his clothes on, gets dressed, goes out there and plays his game. He doesn't really take it to the next level. This is something that has been going on for 2 to 3 years now, where it's like these two kind of butt heads every day in the dressing room. The media, the press is getting wind of it. They're going out there and they're just losing and losing and losing. And instead of just being like at the beginning of the year saying, you know what, no, I'm not running this clown show. Let's just trade one of them and move on. You went and did the same thing again. You thought, last year with all the media getting in the room, people don't think about this, but every day the press is in there. What's going on with JT Miller? And what's going on JT Miller and Elias Pettersson? The team can't even concentrate on their game because they got to deal with this crap. And you're the GM that you had an option just to get rid of one of them. Just be like, okay, we're going to pick guy. We're going to pick either JT Miller or Pettersson. Trade one now, and let's avoid this travesty. No, you let it go on again?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Lane, you make a great point, actually.
So it's interesting.
I remember
our picks.
when
like me and Chazzy fighting on the podcast for 3 years, and Jacob going, it's a good idea. Let's get Jacob, Chazzy, and Lane to run a podcast alone one night. Like, why?
I would
never fight Chazzy. I love Chazzy, but
both our picks were involved in winning most controversial trade of the year with Vancouver and the Rangers. So now, I think that's awesome. Both are thinking like
I also want to say it's funny because we all, before you were on the show, Lane, Dan, Chazzy, and I kept arguing when I said Vancouver need to get that trade done ASAP. And Dan and Chazzy kept saying they have time. There's no rush.
No, they don't.
And I kept saying there is a rush because they're trying to kill each other. Now, my pick for I want to quickly say my worst GM of the year because you guys are going to think I'm insane. And I may get the clown book depending on what happens over the next couple of days. For me, it's the Edmonton Oilers. You had one job.
Whoa.
You had one job. You are going to shut up and let me finish. You are going to lose the Stanley Cup because you had one job to go get a goaltender. You had one job and you didn't do it. No, hear me out. The Vancouver Canucks, whether they made that move or not, they were not Stanley Cup contenders, right? Right. Whether the New York Rangers traded Jacob Trouba or not, they were not a Stanley. They were not going to the Stanley Cup.
In that even can
they
happen.
Would have got their butts kicked by Florida. I see dashing gas is saying Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz, I actually think on a GM standpoint, that was a coaching issue. That team was very good. I run that team through a simulation in NHL 25 because we all know EA games are so realistic. They'd be a good team. No, I look at I think as a GM, it is your job to take your team to the next level. And if you lose the Stanley Cup in worse fashion, then you did not do that. Bringing in Jacob Wallman was not the solution. Not even close. You desperately needed a goalie. Desperately. You had 2 AHL goaltenders. There were goalies available. Detroit had 7 of them. Just go get one of them. Go get James Reimer. Go get Peter Mrazek. I don't know. Go get Cam Talbot. Go get somebody. Go get Joseph Wall. Go get anyone in the NHL. No, screw all of that. Go to Dallas and say, I will give you my firstborn son for John Gibson and go win a cup. You have John Gibson. You don't lose game 2. You're up 3-1. You win the cup in 6. And instead, they're going to lose in 7. This GM has cost Canada yet again to win a Stanley Cup. And I don't want to hear, it's because Wade Gretzky high-stick Doug Gilmour in 1993.
That is true.
That is false. I am done. My jaw is starting to hurt. And it is not from what Dan thinks it is.
Oh, my God.
Jacob, I have a point, and there's 2 names I want to run by you. Okay, I'm not disagreeing he shouldn't have got a goalie, but I'm going to give you 2 GMs here. Do I actually think did something way worse than what Edmonton did? Chris McFarland, for those who don't know, the GM of the Colorado Avalanche. You traded now. No, I think he was the president. But you traded 100-point scoring winger for a guy who doesn't even like being on your team, and you didn't have to trade him. You just could have run it. You could have just let him be your UFA you could have used him as your rental
It's a
free
rental
agent,
player,
had- and Landeskog and Rantanen and you had the dream team to run it back to the Stanley Cup Final. He said, "You know what? Let's trade Mikko Rantanen for a guy who doesn't even want to be here, who wants to leave. Now you lost Mikko Rantanen. Now you're going to lose Martin Necas, and who you bringing in? Nathan McKinnon's pissed off at you. Your whole team's pissed off at you, and you lost to the guy you traded." That's my first one. The number two is another guy who was like, "Oh, if I got my way, I would have given the Leafs the Stanley Cup championship." And that was Kyle Dubas. Ever since he's gone to Pittsburgh, down they've gone. You're wasting the last few years of Sidney Crosby's career. And you know what? You want to give credit to someone? I'll give credit to the GM of the Washington Capitals, Chris Patrick. At least he's able to put a team out there that can actually help Ovechkin do something. At least they get to the playoffs. At least they're competitive. Ever since Kyle Dubas has gone there with his stupid analytics, all they've done is lose, and they're pathetic.
Yeah. So, Chazzy, what about you? Who you think's the worst GM?
Oh, and for this year, if I had to go off the board, I'm going to say the Buffalo Sabres. Just because it's been, 5 years, no playoffs, no identity. They have all these draft picks, and you're hoping that they're just going to make it out, and it just seems, I don't know, we'll see what happens this year, but I just didn't see them moving anywhere. And then they got, big contracts. Owen Power's got $8 million on the cap. Like, you got some big names there, and they just, I don't know. And then there's some comments throughout the year about playing in Buffalo, and like,
of course,
I don't know. It's a franchise that you're hoping that can just get over this hump and get back to their Dominic Hasek days and dominate.
They're pretty pathetic too.
I will say I'm a little surprised no one went with, and I know he was fired, but Lou Lamoriello out in the Islanders.
Yeah, that's bad too.
Yeah.
He had a team that was so close and just decided to never make them better and wait till they all got really old, but made sure they had a haircut that he liked. And that's
that guy was 82. We gotta give him a break.
I don't care. He's doing a good job. Now, for best GMs in the league,
I was gonna say, let's give the GM some love there.
Let's give the GM some love. I agree, and I am gonna go way off the board. Okay. Is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Steve Stales in the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
Good one.
Everyone panicked, saying blow the team up. He traded Josh Norris when everyone said
that was crazy
and freaked out about.
I did. Hardcore freak out.
Right? He stuck to the course and got his team to the dance. He went out and got Almar when everyone said Almar was overrated. If it wasn't for Almar, I don't think you make the playoffs. Yeah. He continued to build the defense. He continued to find good bottom six forwards. He signed Shane Pinto to a very reasonable contract. He brought in Claude Giroux to bring in leadership. He did a lot of things that were very, very smart. And I think to be the GM of the NHL, be the best GM in the NHL, you actually have to see some progression. And I saw progression. Yeah. Steve Stales to the Ottawa Senators. Watch out for the Ottawa Senators. And I hate saying that as a Leaf fan, but watch out for the Ottawa Senators. I think this team in 2 years, they could be a cup contender.
For sure.
I've got another off the board pick here.
Yeah.
I was just looking through.
Same pick. I guess not.
Well, I've actually got, and I'm Chazzy's going to love this one, but I'm going with the Montreal Canadiens and Mr. Kent Hughes, because you know what, you give Montreal. Again, there's another team, and they're in one of the toughest divisions. Everyone said, "Oh, Montreal won't make the playoffs, so they don't stand a chance outside of the monster Toronto, Florida, Ottawa, Tampa Bay. They won't belong. They don't belong in this division." You know, you drafted Lane Hudson. He's been incredible. And you got Ivan Demidov, who you're able to bring into the postseason. Those are two key players that you were able to bring in from a rookie standpoint here. And yeah, just an incredible GM, in my opinion.
So who are you thinking, Mr. Moore, for?
Well, I thought Lane and I had the same pick, and for once mine is not off the board, and I forget this name, so Lane can help me with his name. But my pick is the GM of Florida. And the reason why
Bill Zito.
Thank you. The reason why I picked him is he just did exactly what he had to do. Florida almost missed the playoffs this year. They finished third in their division. And he went out there and got Steph Jones, which I thought was kind of a crazy trade. I thought $9.5 million for a pylon. Well, all of a sudden, he put him on a good team. He's not a pylon anymore. He's made a legitimate, huge difference to his blue line. I think he's probably the reason why this team is at the Stanley Cup Finals. And then to top it all off, he got the best rat in the NHL in Brad Marchand to make Florida even more annoying. I thought you couldn't get any worse with Sam Bennett than with Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk. You make it even better and get Brad Marchand. So I gotta say that is amazing.
That's a good pick, Dan. But I want to move on to Chazzy, the Chazinator, 6.1. And Chazzy, who is your GM of the year?
I agree with obviously Lane, but my alternative is going to be Eric Tulsky out in Carolina, just with the situation that you basically walked yourself into, but you sort of salvaged some pieces, even some youth pieces, and you made it to the Stanley Cup conference, or I guess you made to the conference finals. So
see, that's
salvaging that. Yeah.
I would say people would either say he was one of the best GMs in the league or one of the worst.
Oh, yeah.
I actually agree with you, but I've seen people say he's an idiot for making that in the first place, which I don't think he was, even though it blew up in his face. But there's our take on the NHL.
Are we going to do worst coach quickly?
No, we're not.
Okay.
Maybe we can do that another day.
Oh, so we just make this one episode and then do like
no. We're gonna move on.
Okay.
We're gonna move on to game 6. We're gonna move on to game 6 of the NHL playoffs.
What do I know?
Not much. And we're gonna move on to game 6 of the playoffs. And I'm gonna say this is a must-win game for the Edmonton Oilers, right? This is one that I think Edmonton absolutely has to win. Would you boys agree? Obviously, because
that's a no-brainer. They don't win, they're out. So yeah.
But if you, what I mean by that,
I don't know much. I know that.
What I mean is, I would say if Edmonton loses in Game 6, this entire season was an absolute failure.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Especially the way you've lost 2 of these games in the Cup Finals, being blown, getting the doors absolutely blown off you.
Yeah, exactly.
Has been a complete disaster. So this is an absolute must win. But I want to ask you guys a question here. Who's in?
Let me ask you a question.
Let me ask you.
Stuart Skinner.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Stuart Skinner. I think you got to go back to him. I think the pixie dust, or maybe Calvin Pickard's Fairly Odd Parents got the rule book and realized that they can't keep granting him these wishes, and he went back to being Calvin Pickard. So it's go with your best goalie.
Yeah, for sure.
And your best goalie, unfortunately, is Stuart Skinner.
Yeah. Who's in the minors when they call up?
No one.
Rodriguez.
Jack Campbell?
Fairly in NHL.
Jack Campbell?
No, Jack Campbell's in Detroit.
Oh, that's right. He got traded.
Where's their bony driver in the room? Anybody?
Yeah, maybe. What was his name?
Oh,
I forget now.
I
know it's on the tip of my tongue.
Ayers.
David Ayers. That's right. Maybe he's hanging around.
But Mr. Chazzy, who would you start in net? Calvin Pickard or Stuart Skinner?
Well, I mean, I was interested to see what you guys were going to say, because I was always about, you got to go with your strongest pony. And then it's like, okay, if you go to Pickard, which they did in Game 5, and he falters, what do you do in Game 6? So hearing what you guys are saying, I do agree with you. You have to definitely go back to Stuart Skinner right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's much of an option, and I agree with all you guys that I wish there was a better option, but there's not. So,
but I think the biggest concern, I know I didn't join you guys the other night for the post game, but it's the energy that Edmonton came out with. I just expected so much more. Overtime win, home, crowds amped. You've shown us that you're playing on some other stratosphere all playoffs, and to have that performance. And then you almost went down 4 after the first. Like I was expecting a whole different Edmonton team.
It's like the Maple Leafs.
Well, and that's the thing, Red. I've seen everyone go on about the goaltending. I know I asked the question, but
I need the whole team.
I need Connor McDavid to take over a game. He hasn't done it this whole series.
No.
You are apparently the best player in the NHL, even though no one else believes you are, because you didn't win the Hart. You didn't win the MVP by the player vote. So,
well, those couple of power plays in the first period, I just felt like it was just one too many passes. He's finally looking for the pass. Like, just shoot the puck.
Connor McDavid in this Stanley Cup Finals, for Connor McDavid's expectation has been bad. For what you expect out of Connor McDavid, yeah, if we're talking about any other player, we'd be happy with it. Leafs fans would be thrilled if Austin Matthews would do what Connor McDavid has done in this series. But Connor McDavid is supposed to be on another level. Same thing when Colorado lost. A lot of people called out Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar because they're like, look, these guys are next level players. And at the end of the day, they just played like the same level players. And that's how I feel about McDavid and Draisaitl. You're apparently the two best players in the world. Act like it. Draisaitl won the Rocket Richard and has as many goals as Corey Perry in these playoffs and less than Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand. Like, it's a problem. And the big thing is the Edmonton Oilers are not designed to win 2-1 games. They're designed to win 5-2 and 4-3 and these kind of barn burners. And Florida's winning those games. Yeah. The only way Edmonton has won is when their goalies played very well. Either you look at their wins, and Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard, both of them had to make some huge saves to get Edmonton to win those games. That's not the way this team is built.
No.
And you need way more out of Evan Bouchard. And I know I've been calling him out a lot, but when Corey Perry can skate faster than you on a back check than you can, and he's 40, Corey Perry is almost old enough to be Evan Bouchard's father. That's a problem. Like, I need more out of Evan Bouchard. I need more out of Connor McDavid. I need more out of Leon Draisaitl. And I'm sick and tired of the excuse that Zach Hyman is injured. I do not care.
Well, that's what I said.
I understand Zach Hyman is a good player. I understand that. But that cannot be an excuse why you only get 39 seconds of offensive zone time in the first period. That can't be an excuse. And by the way, you had a power play in the first period. So I believe over half of that was from that power play. They had 3 shots in 20 minutes. It's absolutely unacceptable. And what I don't understand is Connor McDavid has made a couple real highlight reel plays, so it's not like the ice hasn't been there. He just isn't doing it consistently. When Edmonton went on their run last year, and I actually don't really feel there's been a lot of games this year where it's been McDavid or Draisaitl taking over a game. No, it's been a team effort. Right now, you need McDavid and Draisaitl to take over a game because you know what? Your bottom six has done more than enough.
And you have to take over game 6 and 7 and bring the cup home.
You got to get over. You got to get through game 6 first. You just got to go 1-0. I know that's the mantra in football, but I think that's got to be the mantra for the Oilers right now. Just go 1-0. Yeah. Go 1-0 for 2 games. Don't even think about game 7 yet. Game 7 does not exist. Game 7 is a false leader. It's a false narrative. It's fake news. It's whatever the hell you want to call it. Just go 1-0. And to go 1-0, you need McDavid and Draisaitl to step up the way Marchand and the way Bennett and the way Barkov have stepped up for the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
There's no ifs or buts about it. The top players for Florida, Matthew Tkachuk had 2 goals the other night.
Yeah.
Connor McDavid finally got his first goal of the playoffs. I mean, not first goal of the playoffs, first goal of the series. It was a nice goal, but 1 goal in 5 games, it's not enough.
No.
It's just not enough. Like, I get Connor McDavid's leading the NHL in points for the playoffs. It's not enough.
It's not.
He is supposed to be. Everyone says when his contract is up, he's going to be the highest paid player in NHL history. Right now, he does not look like it. It's not enough.
I agree.
know you guys have thought for what? Wow, you agree? Because usually, Lane, you've been saying I'm a little crazy when I'm saying McDavid and Draisaitl need to do more. But I need more of these guys.
No, I agree 100%, Jacob. Like, honestly, at this point, you're right. Like, I mean, Stanley Cups are won with depth players. We have seen that in the past and I do think Edmonton coming into the series had the right formula, but it's getting down to crunch time here. And, especially the way you played last game, your star players, Draisaitl and McDavid didn't really show up there till the 3rd period when it was almost too late. And now you're in a do or die situation. There's no more. The talk is no more about Corey Perry having a great postseason. It's not about Kasperi Kapanen being the hero. It's not about Jeff Skinner having his 5th playoff game and being well. No, that conversation is done now. It's crunch time. You got to win. I'm sorry, McDavid, Draisaitl. one of you guys got to go out there and have a career game and go back to back here and prove why you guys are the best duo that they say you are in the NHL. Because right now you're getting outplayed by Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand by a country mile, and that's not just me being angry. That's just a true statement.
I agree.
What do you think, Chazzy?
No, I agree. It's do or die right here. There is no
100%.
tomorrow.
And I think when it's do or die, your top players have to take over. I mean, it'd be great if the bottom six can get you another win, but I'm not
count on it.
You got to come out way better than you have in the last 3 games. You can't be down 3 goals and looking to come back against a Florida team like this. There's no way.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think Edmonton's played a full game in this series.
No, they haven't.
No.
It just shows you how good this team can be, and I think that's why I'm even more frustrated.
We haven't seen this same team in this series, I don't think, at all.
Like I see, let's say it was a nail biter and Edmonton was playing their hearts out and they were just down. I'd be like, okay. But you had
the 8-1 Edmonton team we saw last year against Florida.
Game 2, I'm telling you.
Yeah, game 2 was the turning point, and that game 2 was again a play off a bad face-off play, and then just being outworked. Florida's just outworked you in key moments.
All you had to do is win game 2 at home with the lead, bring it home, play solid defense.
Just had to lay it on the
line. Home.
Just had to lay it on the line,
and you did. And now you're on now that game's gonna come back and bite you in the butt.
So, do you guys think though that's where the series really flipped? Because Florida certainly flipped the script. You remember game 1? We were all on here, myself included, saying, "Man, Florida just can't keep up with Edmonton."
Yep.
And this series might be done in 5 or 6. I said it, which it still might be done in 6, just the other way around.
Yep.
And it was one of those things that all of a sudden Florida's like, we can't keep up, but we can hurt you. We can hit you. We can outwork you. And that's what they've done. We can make better passes than you can. And that's what they've done. I think that's how they flip the script. And at the end of the day, Bobrovsky is just a better goalie.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm sticking by what I said 10 minutes ago, because, my mind didn't change in 10 minutes. And that's why I still think if Edmonton loses, this Ken Holland in Edmonton could be fired. Never mind just be the worst GM. You might be fired. You had one job.
Yeah.
Fix your one glaring problem in the team. And the glaring problem all season was goaltending.
Yeah.
It was you could argue Edmonton had one of probably the worst goaltending out of all playoff teams.
Yeah.
It's true.
You can't win the Stanley Cup with bad goaltending. Because even the games they've been winning, they've been getting good goaltending in the games they're winning. It's just too inconsistent. I don't even think Edmonton needed a Vezina caliber goalie. But can you imagine if they went out and got John Gibson?
I think Peter Mrazek would be a perfect fit for Edmonton because he wasn't all that bad in Toronto. He wasn't all that bad in Detroit and Chicago. He just played on terrible teams. So imagine if he played on a good team.
I don't know. I just thought that John Gibson was the best goalie available. Just go get him.
Remember Peter Mrazek in the juniors, how amazing he was and how great he's been for Czechia in international play? I really think he was the answer. I think because you don't have much salary cap space, right? So you can't. John Gibson at $6 million is going to be hard to fit.
They went out and got Trent Frederick and Wallman. I
get it, but they've been good at distance you need on this team.
You needed the goaltending more, though.
I get
like when Toronto, everyone's like, "Oh, they should have went out and got this guy or this guy." You only had so much cap space, and they felt they needed Brandon Carlo more than they needed a top 6 forward. And I actually agreed with the decision, even though they couldn't get by Florida.
Me too. Yep.
I look at Edmonton, and their biggest glaring issue was and has been in the McDavid era, ever since Mike Smith retired, has been goaltending.
Jake Allen would have been a good pick.
Oh my gosh, Jake Allen would have been perfect. A mediocre goalie. That's all they needed.
Well, it's tough for Edmonton too. They thought Jack Campbell was the answer.
Oh, I don't care. Jack Campbell's 2 years ago. You've had 2 years to fix that.
Not true. Yeah.
Man, Allen, literally, Jake Allen. What did New Jersey give up for Jake Allen, anyways? Wasn't anything crazy 2 years ago.
No.
They might have sitting on the bench. Jake Allen last year. Like in all seriousness.
And he was a good-looking dude in Hockey Night in Canada. I look way in the panel.
That's how Dan cares about, is how people look on a panel.
Oh, it's important. That's what we do.
Even Pamelka.
I think it's
seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Vejmelka, like look, Vejmelka when he's shown when he has a good team in front of him on that Arizona Utah team when the team is decent in front of him, which they were for 1 year, he's got he can go out there and put some pretty good stats up there. He wouldn't have been a bad option to have as a third stringer guy that you could throw into that team, see how he responds with it in front of a team that can actually play pretty decently every night.
But that's what I mean. In Edmonton, there were options, right? There were plenty of goalies available. Even James Reimer, and I know you guys think I'm crazy when I say James.
No, I agree. James Reimer being a good pick.
Reimer is a goalie that's okay. I don't think they needed a Vezina caliber goal. I don't think they need a guy that needs to be better than Bobrovsky. They just needed someone that can consistently allow 3 goals or less. And if you had that, I think you're up in you might be up in this series. And do I think goaltending is the sole reason why they're down? No, David and Draisaitl. But you knew your biggest hole going into the playoffs was goaltending. Everyone knew that. It was very common knowledge. So to fix the goaltending, they went and got a bottom 6 forward that they didn't really need. And the defense was an issue. I could see bringing in Wallman.
He's been a big piece.
But if I had to choose between Wallman or John Gibson, I'm taking Gibson every time for what Edmonton needed. If it was Toronto, for example, I would have brought in Wallman over Gibson because Toronto needed another defenseman more than they needed another goalie. Yeah. But you have to look at what your team needs. And at the end of the day, they desperately needed a goalie. Stuart Skinner, I think, for the most part, has played pretty well. Yes, he's had some bad moments. But maybe in those bad moments, if you were more confident to put in a backup, I mean, don't get me wrong, Calvin Pickard's played very well. But we all knew Calvin Pickard wasn't going to keep this up forever. Right? We all know he's an AHL goalie. And he's gone 7-1 in the playoffs, which is remarkable.
Pretty good. Yeah.
But you knew the magic would run out. But I do want to move on. Not just with my life, but with our show. And talk about who's going to win Game 6. Did you know Game 6 will be in the new and improved Streakers?
Updated.
Now, make sure if you have not updated the Streakers app, well, I don't know what you're doing with your life. So make sure you update the app. Some people would automatically update. Some people, like Dan, don't set their phones up that way because they don't know how cell phones work.
Correct.
So make sure you update the app, as the new interface is smoother than Lane taking me out for waffles. That's how smooth it is. Now let's talk
fast.
Let's talk about.
We should go for waffles. That's a good idea.
I do love waffles.
Denny's.
Who wins Game 6? Chazzy, we'll start with you. Who wins Game 6?
I hope I can continue my playoff bid for at least a couple more days. It's at the itchy part. So Edmonton.
Lane.
It's going to be the Florida Panthers. I think this is sign, seal, deliver. They're back-to-back champions.
More for
Edmonton. Wimes with Hamilton.
I'm going to say the Edmonton Oilers because they're going to do what the Leafs did and win a good Game 6 and then break everyone's heart in Game 7 and back home.
Oh, no. I did say
Malone
at the
again
beginning Edmonton in 7.
Florida's going to win the Cup. Florida has only lost 2 games in a row once in these playoffs.
Well,
funny enough, what's to Toronto? But
that's like OKC. They haven't lost 2 games in a row either.
True. But let's get into our
about to.
And Mr. Morfor.
Ooh.
Will Sam Bennett score a goal?
Yeah, I think he will. I think he'll break Ovi's record of 15 goals in a playoff run. I think he'll make 16 goals in a playoff run. I think he could even make it a 17. I think this guy is incredible. And top odds, I think he'll get an apple, too.
So you think Sam Bennett's going to have a great game and Edmonton's going to win? That's a very confusing statement.
Yes, 100%. Because Edmonton's going to win. It's good at winning high-scoring games. So I think this game could go like 5-4, for example, right?
Very true. I'm going to do my prop for the show and say Sergei Bobrovsky is going to have to make at least 25 stops to get this one done. I think Edmonton's going to put more pucks on net. Dan, he's been facing under 25 in about half of the games in this series.
Oh, that's a problem.
So that's the thing, right? So I think Edmonton's going to get more shots on net. Edmonton only got 21 shots on net in Game 5. Game 3, Leon Draisaitl didn't even have a shot attempt. So I think Bobrovsky's going to be a little busier. Mr. Dashko, will we see overtime?
I think we will. We've seen it pretty much every game this series, except for the last game there. So I'm going to go in back and say we're going to see some extra time for this game. I think it's going to go to overtime. I do.
Last but certainly not least, the man who I sometimes see wear fleece is Chazzy. Now, Mr. Chazzy, will Connor McDavid get at least 2 points?
Yes. If the Edmonton Oilers are going to win this game, he's going to definitely need to score at least 2 points.
Well, let's move on now to another playoff that's going on, and let's talk about the NBA playoffs here. Now, we have game 5 tonight between OKC and the Pacers. And I do want to start off by saying this right off the hop. Win or lose, I would actually call this season a huge success for the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah,
they were not expected to get here. Then they were expected to get swept. And I would argue they have been the better team through 4, although it's tied. I think the Pacers have actually been the better team. It's just SGA has taken over 2 games. And that's what's happened in this series. But I think whoever wins this game will win the series. I said that in the NHL, and I'm going to say that here. Whoever 100%. Wins game 5 will win the series. I think this series will go 7 either way, mind you. I don't see either one of these teams giving it up, losing 2 straight, and going down in 6. But whoever wins game 5 will win the series.
I agree. Like OKC, it's definitely must win for them here. Like you've split home and home here, and they're going to have the advantage here, the best of 3 here. But it's similar. It's almost like Edmonton in the same situation where if you don't win it at home, and I don't know if you can beat the Pacers 2 in a row, especially with the way they're playing and the way Tyrese Haliburton has just taken over this postseason and the way they're playing as a team. I just don't think you're going to beat them 2 times in a row. They're driven. This team is very hungry. They're playing as a team. Tyrese Haliburton has been unbelievable. So I think SGA and the OKC, they got to go back to their winning ways. They got to figure it out. They have to win game 5. Must win.
I'm going to say this too. If OKC loses, I think the season's a failure.
Wow.
I think they
yes
were.
Or no?
I'm going to say, but hear me out though, right? Let's say they lost to, I can't think of a team off the top of my head. But let's say they lost to a team that was considered a real contender going into these finals. I wouldn't consider this a failure. Now, maybe I'm mistaken, but Lane and Chazzy, you guys can answer this better than either Dan or I could. The Pacers were not considered an NBA championship caliber team going into the playoffs, correct?
No, they I don't think people did think they were, no.
Probably mid-pack, but I don't know about winning it. Yeah.
OKC was considered a legitimate championship contender, correct?
Yeah, they're the best team of the regular season.
Therefore, if you lose to the Pacers, it's a failure. Especially if you lose 2 games at home, that's a failure. I'm not saying you blow the team up or anything like that, but you will leave this championship feeling like you had a very good chance to become NBA champions and you blew it. Like if you lose to a team that you think could win it all, that's one thing. But I don't know. I just really I almost feel like OKC underestimated the Pacers coming into this series, and that's what's got them into a world of trouble.
Oh, for sure. You can tell they got a little over cocky, right?
And the Pacers are more of a complete team.
Yeah, they are.
Like, let's take an example. Let's say you were losing. Let's say it was a tied series right now against the Cavaliers or the Celtics. You'd be like, okay, these are 2 of the best teams in the NBA. I respect that. The Pacers were not one of the best teams in the NBA.
No, they weren't.
Finished 4th. They were mid-pack. I actually thought they were going to lose in the first round to the Bucks. I thought the Bucks were going to get an upset. And I never thought the Pacers were going to get this far. You look at OKC, they were by far the best team in the NBA.
Well, it's your boy Siakam, Jacob.
Well, it's a big part of it. Siakam's brought in that winning culture, right? We talk about DNA. I mean, I'm so sick and tired of the phrase DNA at this point. But we talk about it. They brought in championship DNA. So what's a key here? And Craig, I want to ask you, because I sometimes like to make Craig talk so people know that he's not a mute man. Craig is a human being. He's not a robot being cooled by
me. He could be a mime, just do that whole.
But Craig, what do you think needs to happen in this game for OKC?
Oh, for OKC, they just got to play their game, their defense, and let their stars be stars. Williams steps up. That's about it. And they got home court advantage now, 2 out of the next 3.
But I would say too, I think the key is SGA has to get at least 35. You got to make sure SGA's got room on the court. If there's no room for SGA, they will lose.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Pacers, I think it's pretty obvious. And Lane, you can chime in here, obviously, because you know more than I do about this. Shut down SGA, you shut down OKC.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. It's when the way of course, you see the way they're not playing I just don't think they're playing as well as a team dynamic as the Pacers are playing right now. It feels like they are, and it's not that they've been succeeding doing this. It's not like this isn't a recipe for success. SGA does typically go out there and put the team on his back and win them games where their other starters don't have to do as much. But I just feel like the way the Pacers are playing this series and the way they've played throughout this entire postseason, really spreading the ball out, really getting everyone involved. You've seen that bench come off and be such an impact, like Obi Toppin and McConnell and all these players are stepping up. I think the OKC has to be better as a team game. They have to find a way to spread out that ball, get Chet Holmgren going, get Williams going. They got to find a way.
So this brings us into the streakers portion here. So again, download the app. And let's get into who's going to win Game 5. And I want to go first, and I'm going to say the Pacers take Game 5 on the road, and they become NBA champions in 7.
Ooh.
Dan, who are you thinking?
I actually agree with Jacob. I'm taking the Pacers to Game 5. I don't know why, but that's just what my gut's telling me.
I love the fact that you admit that you have no idea why, but it's just
it's not wrong.
Who are you taking?
I'm going to say OKC just because I feel like it's must win, but I'm definitely not against you guys saying the Pacers. The Pacers are are playing fantastic right now. I think they are, in my opinion, they are the NBA. They look like the NBA champions in my opinion, but I'll say OKC because I feel like it's a must win. So I'll take them.
Chazzy.
Yeah, I'm going with Lane there in OKC.
Ooh.
So now I want to ask all you guys, just give me a yes or no. Combined 230 points in this game. I'm going to say no.
Maybe.
Dan, no. Give me an answer. Yes or no?
Well, yeah, I think it'll be more than 230 points. Kind of obvious.
Okay. Lane, 230. Yes or no?
No.
Chazzy, 230.
No.
So Dan's the only one that thinks it's going to be a lot of scoring.
I mean, it could happen.
Dan thinks SGA is going to get like 90 points alone.
Oh, yeah. No, I think you can hit like 40 points.
But let's move on to the Canadian Football League here. And week 2 has just been wrapped up. We saw Winnipeg take down BC, Alouettes take down the Red Blacks, Stamps take down the Argos, Rough Riders take down the Tiger Cats. The East sucks. I'm just going to put that out there. The only team that's won a game in the East is Montreal. Now, mind you, they've only played Eastern teams, so maybe they got to play a Western team to see where they're at. But let's quickly kind of start to – I kind of want to do a wrap through this. We did talk about quite a bit in our – weirdly enough, our Oilers post-game show with the comment section drove us to talk CFL, and I grabbed that steering wheel and went right down the Trans-Canada Highway to talk about it. But BC versus Winnipeg, I got to say right now, Nathan Rourke looked like the Nathan Rourke from last year. Only completed 12 passes. He looked terrible. Like, I get it was around 270 yards, but that's just because he hit about either 3 or 4 explosive plays. You take away those explosive plays, I don't know if he even would have hit 150. It was bad. Wow. It was a bad game. He looked bad. He also hurt himself, which isn't good, for an oblique injury. I think he'll be back next week, though, to play Winnipeg again. And, yeah, I thought he looked really bad. And I thought BC's defense in general looked really bad. Even when Brady Oliveira got injured, and he's going to miss a couple weeks, by the way. Big loss.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Matthew Peterson, 130 yards. Like, holy moly.
That's unacceptable. You can't. I mean, no disrespect.
I don't know who he was. I'm like, who's that?
No disrespect.
I don't even know. You have to. Is he a new player? Wheatfall? Like, I know Dembski, Showen, but Wheatfall with 127 yards. Like, wow.
So he was kind of a lower on the depth chart guy last year, and he's expected to take a bigger step with Kenny Lawler no longer a part of the team.
Well, clearly.
And what I can't get over is too, you let Chris Strevler rip you apart that much.
Oh,
I mean, the guy's not even a passer. He's basically a running back who throws the ball sometimes.
Only
I'd say
9
he's better
incomplete
quarterback than
passes.
people give credit.
That's crazy.
So in that game, I tell you one thing, Winnipeg showed they arguably are still the best team in the West.
Yeah.
Like they
I
took
would
down
argue that now.
without their two juggernauts on offense, without their quarterback and their running back. Oliveira only ran the ball twice.
Wow.
Mind you, he ran for 44 yards, I believe, in 2 carries.
Wow.
But yeah, I think that sums up that game pretty much. Would you boys agree?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So and let's move on to the Red Blacks versus the Alouettes. We talked about this one extensively because the comment section talked about lots about basically how the Red Blacks just look bad. And I think the big thing is for Ottawa is with Drew Brown hurt, and even when he's back, Bob Dice seems to forget he has a running back now. He's got 2 good running backs in William Stanback and Dan Hunter, boy.
Yeah,
As I used to call him, he was part of the Argos. And you got 2 really good running backs. You got to start using them. They're power backs, right? Like they are power, will run you over running backs. And that's a way to really wear down a defensive line. And even with Matthew Schultz in at quarterback, they kept trying to throw the ball.
What happened to Matthew Schultz? Like, I did not remember him being that bad.
The weird thing was he actually put together one really good drive. And on that really good drive, he was starting to make Montreal's defense look very beatable.
Was that garbage yards?
No. This is in the third quarter. This was a game in the third quarter. It blew up on the next drive when he threw an interception. That turned into a pick 6. But it was more with Matt. It will be interesting to see will more teams try this quick offense. You just got to get a little more arc on the ball to get it over the defensive line. Because really what turned that game back into Montreal's favor was the big play by Sean Oakman, one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. Love this guy.
I love that guy.
But I think Ottawa, too, I thought their defensive back struggled. Davis Alexander was really able to rip that defense apart at times. And I'm still going to say at times because I thought he played good enough. I'm still not totally sold on him.
No, I'm not either.
Because I thought he missed some pretty easy throws. And sure, he put up over 300 yards. That's great. But so did Nick Arbuckle this week and Bo Levi Mitchell. So putting up over 300 yards doesn't necessarily mean you had a good game, right?
Right.
So Davis Alexander did a lot of things right. He also did throw an interception in that game, I believe. So it's back-to-back games of a pick. And I don't know. I'm waiting till he plays a good defense to see what he does. Because week 1 against Toronto, Toronto's defense, well, I think we're still getting used to each other. Ottawa's probably got one of the weaker defenses in the league this year, especially with losing Damon Webb to free agency to Calgary. Calgary picked up so many studs in the offseason.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to wait until Montreal faces a real tough defense. They face the Elks this week, which is not really a tough defense. So, and we're not see it yet. But I'm not sold on Davis Alexander until I see him play a top-tier defense. Like,
the Elks have all former Argos. I think their defense is better than giving them saying they are.
Well, I mean, Nathan Rourke made them look like Swiss cheese, and then Nathan Rourke looked like Swiss cheese against Winnipeg. So what I mean is, though, I'm not sold on Davis Alexander until I see him do that to Saskatchewan or Winnipeg. That's when I'm sold on him. And until then, I'm not sold on him. Would you boys agree?
Yeah. I would agree with that 100%.
Now, Mr. Chazzy won the Streakers points on Saturday as he challenged both Dan and I to a rivalry with the Argos versus the Stamp. So congratulations, Chazzy, on your points and improving your winning percentage. You're still behind me, though, in the leaderboard. So you got to catch up. No, actually, I believe Lane is in first. Lane's leaderboard stats are just insane. But, I mean, I'm up there, though. I'm in second. So the self-proclaimed sports analyst, it might not be as dashing, but he's still doing pretty well.
I meant to steal that sports analyst tag from you. Might be Dashingly Dashko, this self-proclaimed sports.
Oh,
that name's gonna fill up the whole bottom bar.
I was gonna say we're not gonna be able to see, which is gonna be your name key.
And that's a 2-liner.
Your name key.
Just change the bottom scroll that goes across. Lane Dashko is amazing. Download the Streakers. I kid.
Well, I think it's time to move on to the Argos versus the Stampeders. And
we were at that game live.
Where's your replica rings?
Yeah, I want to see those.
Awesome getting
yeah. Well, I'll have that moment.
Awesome getting Awesome getting the replica ring.
I thought you'd have it on your finger.
I really did. I thought it was great. MLSC giving that out to the first 10,000 fans who got
That's
there.
cool.
And I saw about people like, dude, they wouldn't even have 10,000 fans. Well, get wrecked because there were just under 18,000 fans there.
Wow.
So I don't know what the heck I think Dan's organizing his laundry right now on the podcast. I thought it was great. The atmosphere was great. Like I said, just under 18,000 fans there. It was electric. It was loud on our side of the stadium, which unfortunately is the non-broadcast side of the stadium. It was absolutely packed. And what I mean by non-broadcast side is the side that isn't shown on TV is the side where all the fans sit. So it kind of sucks.
Jacob and I were very squished in.
We were. But Toronto struggled. The offense really struggled. I thought Arbuckle had a decent decent third quarter, but overall,
Coxie looked great.
Who?
Coxie
had a good game again.
And Williams actually looked really good. I was really
Williams had a
surprised.
great game.
I still don't agree with cutting Carey and Brown, but Williams looked fantastic.
And but the Argos, the injury bug really hit them in this one. Winton McManus went down with an undisclosed injury. The way he was rubbing his leg looked like it might have been a tweaked hamstring.
Yeah.
Devontae McCann went down with an injury. So the Argos only had one running back that whole game. Williams had played a lot of reps and played very well.
I will say, in Arbuckle's defense, you can really tell the difference when Janarian Grant is not in the lineup.
Yeah.
Because you're getting the ball probably on average 5 or 15 yards further away on every drive.
I'd say even more than that. Janarian Grant on average was averaging about 30 yards per kick return.
Well, I was trying to be nice to the guy.
And let's be honest, the Argos now they're lucky to get 5 yards on a kick return right now. They don't have a kick return when Janarian Grant's not in the lineup.
Yeah.
Chad Kelly also clearly did not play this game, since we're talking about Nick Arbuckle. And hearing Ryan Dimwitty's post-game comments, it does not sound like Kelly will be playing in week 3. Sounds like we won't see him till week 4.
Why?
Because what Ryan Dimwitty said was until his leg is strong enough he can get himself out of trouble in the pocket and run away, we don't want to risk it. And I'll be honest, I think there's no pressure on Toronto when besides Montreal, no one else in the East is winning either.
Well, that's a good point, actually.
You need Chad Kelly down the stretch more than you need him now.
Because I will say, he was at the game, which I give him a lot of credit for doing.
And he looked healthy.
He wasn't just at the game. He was standing on the bench every time the defense was out and hyping up the crowd. I mean, how many superstar players do that? I mean, give the guy, when they're injured, give the guy a lot of respect.
I do want to flip the script here a little bit, though, and say Vernon Adams Jr., I thought this was the best game he's had against Toronto in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
No interceptions. He did get sacked a few times, which I will say quickly there. Toronto's defense, I thought, had a pretty good game. But Vernon Adams Jr. was a lot. I thought this was one of his best games. And Chazzy, I'm sure you're happy to see this. I thought this was VA's one of his best games in actually years. And the reason why I say this was the big plays were there, but the big mistakes weren't.
Well, we said it on the pregame about him eliminating. Didn't you guys say he threw 8 interceptions in Toronto?
11 interceptions in the last 2 games at BMO Field going into this game, and he threw none.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing was he never even made any throws. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is he thinking? Yeah. Like VA, if there was nothing there, he either used his legs because he rushed quite a bit, or he threw it away, or he just took the sack. And it's like, you know what? The sack is better than a turnover. Now, the big issue for Calgary is Reggie Begelton went down hard in the first quarter of a really bad injury, and he could not even walk off the field.
At the beginning of the game, too.
If you are Reggie Begelton is arguably a top 10 player in the CFL. Calgary's featured
wide receiver. We still got to do that, too.
Pardon?
We still got to do that, too.
We got to do a lot of things, but Reggie Begelton is a huge part of that team. Now, Dominic Rhymes really stepped up and had a big game, and so did Jalen Philpott with his most receiving yards in his CFL career in a single game for him. So congratulations to Philpott. Mills was okay. I thought I personally thought Calgary's running game was so-so. I thought Toronto did a pretty good job containing it. But Stamp's got to be happy. They're 2-0. I thought their offense struggled in the first half, but VA waited until something was open and then took it in the second half and really took advantage of a tired defense.
Yeah.
So I think if you're Calgary, you got to be really happy to see VA making the big plays when they're there, but when they weren't there, he didn't try to force them.
Because the first half was all defense on both sides.
On both
like
sides.
I think at one point the score was like what?
1-0 at one.
Or some
At one
crazy
point, it was actually 1-0, which is the most CFL score of any football game ever. So,
Woo!
but I think Calgary has got to be very happy starting 2-0. And I felt this game was better for them than the last game. I thought they looked better defensively, and I thought they looked better offensively.
So it's
as much as they didn't put up as many
points in Montreal 2-0 now, right?
Yes.
Close for you, yeah.
As much as Calgary's offense didn't put up as many points, I actually thought they looked better because they didn't have any critical errors. Remember, Vernon Adams Jr. threw 2 interceptions against Hamilton. Luckily, they didn't turn into anything. Chazzy's so upset about those interceptions, he became a silhouette. And I know he'll be back, Dan. Relax. But either way, I think Stampeder's got to be really happy of this. But Lane, how are you feeling? Your Ticats lost again. And I thought the pick 6 was the real game changer when Mitchell, I thought it was a really bad throw by Bo Levi Mitchell, throwing it to Mr. Milligan. So how concerned are you, Lane, with Hamilton being down 0-2?
Oh, I'm pretty concerned. I just feel like, I know we talked about this before. I feel like Bo Levi Mitchell is just not doing enough right now. And I don't know how much more of a leash he's going to get at this point, but I got to think Taylor Powell is going to be the starting quarterback soon. You know, I mean, I know he did throw for 336 yards, but you didn't get a passing touchdown from Bo Levi Mitchell outside of the first quarter from Tim White. And yeah, you can argue maybe in the third quarter, if you don't give up that 64-yard interception with the 2-yard, that's 8 points in that third quarter. You know, the score is 23-20, and maybe you're walking off the home field with the win. But at the same time, it's like, you know, you started out last season 0-5. Now you're 0-2 now. Bo Levi Mitchell is supposed to be the guy. That's why you brought in Kenny Lawler to help him. And it just feels like we're already off to a rough start here. And I don't know. I'm concerned.
Well, and I think the bigger concern for Hamilton too is, in my opinion, you had a real chance to get the jump on Toronto and Ottawa, who are both suffering from critical injuries to start the year.
You haven't.
Hamilton's healthy. Like, unless there's injuries I don't know about, Hamilton is relatively healthy. Now, you did see Kenny Lawler with over 160 yards receiving, and one of his catches in the second quarter was just absolutely breathtaking. Like, I was really like, oh my gosh. Like, it's what Kenny Lawler does, right? But Hamilton could not stop the run to save their life. AJ Ouellette and Kadeem Carey. Oh my God, that's a really good running back group.
122 yards, yeah.
122 yards combined. Both running backs could pretty much do whatever the heck they wanted. AJ Ouellette, funny enough, ran for his longest rushing play in his career in the Canadian Football League.
Wow.
44 yards on one run. So congratulations, Mr. Ouellette.
How much yards?
44.
Wow.
Yeah, he got more.
His hair looked beautiful in the wind.
Talk about flipping the field. Wow.
He legitimately almost got more yards than Greg Bell got in the entire game.
So this is what I don't get either. Why aren't you using the run game more? If Mitchell, because I felt at times Mitchell's accuracy was just a little bit off. Why not use the run game more, or at least just hit Greg Bell on some quick hitch screens, because he's fast, right? Like, he's a fast running back. He's got great speed and open field. Like, I don't understand why Milanovic is calling the game the way he is. If he doesn't,
I'll be honest, Jacob. I think it's this offensive line. I think this has been like, I've said this, like, I don't know how many years I've said this just to my friends in general. Just like, I feel like
your friends.
I feel like well, I didn't know you guys yet, but no, I just like every year when we talk about CFL and Ticats, I've said this since I was a kid. I just feel like the part of the Ticats DNA is having a really bad offensive line. Yeah. Like, you look again here, they got sacked again here 2 times for 17 yards. It feels like the quarterbacks, no matter who we have throughout the years, have never really had time to shine. He's always getting pressured and always having to make bad throws and always having to panic. And that goes back to Danny McManus here. Like, it was the same thing back when as a kid. It's the same thing happening now, where the quarterback's always under constant pressure. The running back never has time to do anything. The running game never gets established. So you're relying on the quarterback, and in this case, Bo Levi Mitchell, to kind of do the same thing, to throw 40 to throw 40 balls, because if they hand it off, they're only going to get 2 or 3 yards at max half the time. Or at least if you don't have any confidence in it.
And I'm going to say, too, I think at Levi Mitchell's age, I don't want him dropping back 40, 45 times to pass the ball. I thought he was most effective last year in Hamilton when he was dropping back around maybe 35 at max to pass, and you're using the running game more. I give Mitchell one more game. He necessarily doesn't have to win, but he has to be better. I think the first 2 games he's looked so. I give him one more game.
Dude, the Ticats go and sign Brown then because Bell's not getting it done on winning back?
They trust in Brown. I mean, in Bell, I think they're going to stick with him. And I agree. I agree with Lane. I think you could put in I don't know if it's the running back or if it's the O-line. I think the O-line in Hamilton's a problem.
It always seems to be.
But a great way, though, to help with a bad O-line is quick hitch screens and quick little slants and routes that develop very quickly so the O-line doesn't have to hold for very long. So maybe they need to look at that. I know Mitchell's a deep ball pocket passer.
Like, Jacob, you know better than me. Like you would know better. You know better than me do. What would you do? Would you have Mitchell go like maybe 33 passes and try to bring in Taylor Powell to do some scrambles so they drop back a bit more to give Mitchell that more time to throw in Bell more opportunities, like put Bell and Powell out there to kind of confuse the defense of whether he's going to run or throw here, to just give it a little more, just give the offense a little more unpredictability instead of just having Mitchell where he feels like he's going to throw it 40 times so the defense knows, okay, all we got to do is pressure Mitchell and we're going to we're either going to get it incomplete or he's going to make a bad throw.
Mind you, that's not a bad idea just to give Taylor Powell his own package, right? Just to give him something where he can just kind of, you know what, maybe it's putting a little bit of pressure off Bo Levi Mitchell, but it's really tough. You kind of need one voice to run the offense. I think that's always been the way in football. And I don't know. I think if you're Hamilton, you just need to, I think you need to give Mitchell one more game and you just got to establish the run. I think they're giving up on the run too early. And maybe instead of trying to run it up the middle, you know what, use Greg Bell more, some outside, maybe some counter runs to try to bring in a little bit of misdirection. Maybe you even do some little jet screens and get Tim White involved in the offense that way, because that could really help. I don't know, but I will say for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I mean, Trevor Harris, I get back-to-back games where he threw an interception, but the interception against Hamilton was just an amazing play by Castantonis to run halfway across the field to make a tackle, to make it where Monke was able to make a big interception. So I thought Trevor Harris had a really good game again. He's the most accurate passer in the CFL, and he's showing it off yet again. I think the Rough Riders look very good. Rowan Milligan with that pick six what really turned around the game. And not to sound whatever, but Brett Lawfer missed 2 field goals and you still found a way to win, right? Like, this team actually realistically should have been a 2-score victory for them if Brett Lawfer is a bit more accurate. So I think Saskatchewan really controlled this game from the second half on, which is frustrating if you're a Ticats fan because the first quarter was all Hamilton. You really outplayed Saskatchewan in the first quarter. You had that home crowd going. You honored a legendary Ticat. You had the military planes fly over the arena to start the game.
Cool.
Friend of the program, Barron, was at the game, so we will be sharing some photos.
So is Whipson, too, another friend of the program. He shared some pictures of the Streakers Gaming social media of the arena and everything. It was very cool. He unfortunately did not win the 50-50.
That's a shame. I would have liked if he won the 50-50. Then he could have
been pretty cool.
$1 million. Not quite. So
I think it was 26,000. It was pretty impressive.
That's still a lot of money. But I really think Hamilton is in a bit of trouble because I think when Chad Kelly gets healthy and Drew Brown gets healthy, I think Toronto and Ottawa are very different teams than they are right now. And Lane, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Hamilton pretty much healthy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I get you've lost to 2 Western teams, but your next game's against the Alouettes. That's not any easier. I believe Hamilton gets this week. And
especially if Davis Alexander comes in and you know he can
just be crazy.
You're crazy.
I think Hamilton's going to beat Montreal.
It's not impossible.
I do. I don't see I don't
That
think
home-
Montreal's as good as a 2-0 record. I don't think Hamilton's as bad as an 0-2 record. So I think something's going to give them week 3.
Well, Dan said something nice about the Ticats. Whoa.
Well, you know what, though, to bring on Dan's point, though, right? The Alouettes.
Oski wee wee, Oski wawa.
Oh, my God, I want to throw up. But to back up Dan's point a little bit would be the Alouettes do play the Elks in week 3, which if they win that one, they got to lose at some point. So they could lose to the Tiger Cats. Tiger Cats will be at home, plus coming off the bye. So I think that's going to help them a lot, where Montreal was on a road trip where they have to go to Edmonton and then go to Hamilton. That's not an easy road trip to make. So maybe, but you at least need a better game, especially to week 5, you face the Toronto Argos, which I think will be Chad Kelly will probably be back by then. Looks like Kelly will be back by week 4 when they face Ottawa, which hopefully will, some of us from the island will be heading down to Ottawa for that one. So big game there. But I want to now go over, how we always talk about the CFL Power Rankings, and we asked, and we
quickly, just one thing I want to throw in about the Red Blacks. Unfortunately, sorry, Jake, it's important to talk about. Unfortunately,
quickly though, I always have the smoothest segues, and then Dan's like, "No, I am going to squash your segue like a bug." Continue, Dan.
Unfortunately, Lewis broke his touchdown streak,
which is tough.
Yes,
Eugene Lewis was trying to break the record for most consecutive games of a touchdown, and he was unable to do so.
He did tie it.
That's
no,
crazy.
He did not tie it. That game would have tied it. He has 9. The record was 10.
That's still insane.
It is.
9's brilliant, but it's like half the year when you think about it. It's pretty insane.
That is crazy.
You got to wonder, too, if Drew Brown didn't get hurt, he probably would have got it. The sad thing was Eugene Lewis made a catch, and he caught it at the 1-yard line. That's how close he was.
Yeah.
That's how close he was. But
I sorry to interrupt you, Jake. That's why it was important to talk about.
You know what else is important? My power rankings for the Canadian Football League.
Yes.
So we always talk about everyone else's power rankings. And I'm like, why don't I just make my own power rankings? Because I'm really smart. And Craig isn't here to see how happy he would be. He'll be back. I'm thinking he had to take Bear out for a poop. That is my guess. Bear's his dog. He does not have a pet bear.
Big German Shepherd, beautiful dog.
So I'm going Rough Riders 1,
Ooh.
Stampeders 2, Blue Bombers 3, Montreal Alouettes 4, BC Lions 5.
Really?
Toronto Argos 6, Hamilton Tiger Cats 7, Edmonton Elks 8, Ottawa Red Blacks 9.
I think it's pretty good.
I think it's pretty good, but you got the Argos one below too much.
You want the Argos ahead of BC?
Yeah, 100%.
Argos are 0-2, BC's 1-1.
I don't care. I actually watched the games on the field, and the Argos are better in BC.
It depends. Argos with Chad Kelly, maybe. Right now, no, they're not.
No, but right now they are.
No, they're not.
They got way better defense. They got better running game. I still think Arbuckle's better in New York.
You're an idiot if you think Nick Arbuckle's better than Nathan.
Fine, give me the circus book. That's my opinion.
Lane, though, off camera, you kind of felt like the Tiger Cats maybe should be 9th.
It's hard to. You could argue that, but maybe I'm being a little too critical just because I'm frustrated. Because when you really do think about it and sit back, they have lost to the 2 best teams. If we're going off these power rankings, like they literally have lost to the 2 best teams. So maybe I'm just a bit frustrated right now, but I just don't want to see another year this 0-5 when then them try to make it back when the season's over. Feels like it's over.
And see, that's why I have the Tiger Cats at 7th, because I look at who they lost to, and they were competitive games. Now, you might ask why I have the Argos at 6. I have the Argos at 6 because I think once they're back, considering the players that are out, they're still playing competitive football. And I have Ottawa dead last just because I don't see the way they're playing right now without Drew Brown. They're the worst team in the league because they don't want to run the ball and their defensive backs aren't up to snub.
Yeah, unfortunately.
The Elks, I have them at 8th just because I haven't really seen enough of them yet. I've only seen one game and they lost, but Trey Ford did some cool stuff.
Yep.
So it's tough.
Superman.
I'll be curious to see what other rankings are. I'm sure people will not like that I have the Blue Bombers ahead of the Alouettes, but I look at it, the Blue Bombers dominated the BC Lions without Zach Collaros, without Brady Oliveira.
I think that's accurate.
So that is my reason for those picks. And Chazzy, wherever you are, I'm sure is very happy that I picked the Calgary Stampeders as the second best team in the league. Only reason why I put the Rough Riders ahead of them, I think the Riders have a better defense than the Stamps. I think the Stamps have a better offense, but I do think defense wins championships.
Rough Riders really surprised me. They look incredible this year. At the beginning of the year, I was like, yeah, but now it's like, whoa, this team is serious.
I'm not surprised one iota. I said that. I thought the Rough Riders going in, I thought they were going to be the best team in the CFL. And they are. But now I want to move on to baseball. And before we get into the Blue Jays, I am seeing Lane wants to break some breaking news.
Yes,
More breaking news than the way people like to break plates at a restaurant. So, Lane, what's your breaking news?
So I don't mean to be on my phone that I'm doing my work, but I am just reading this breaking news. There are 2 breaking news things coming out of the MLB at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I guess they don't stop working either. It looks like since the first time since Tommy John surgery, Shohei Ohtani is going to be pitching once again as a starting pitcher Monday versus the San Diego Padres. So for the first time in over a year, so they're getting their star pitcher. He's going to be taking them out as a starting role. They haven't said if he's going to go the whole game, but it's a high possibility. He's going to be using the opener, according to the Athletics. Fabian Arrieta, Dave Roberts does believe he will be able to go Monday, and that he's ready to pitch in a big league game. He did throw 44 pitches on a practice on last Tuesday without any issues. So we'll see if he goes the full game. I'm assuming he's going to start the game. Don't know if he will go the whole game, but we'll see. And then the other breaking news that has just happened recently as of tonight, the Boston Red Sox traded designated hitter Rafael Devers to the San Francisco Giants for Jordan Hicks, who is a former Blue Jay pitcher, Kyle Harrison, a pair of prospects, and an outfielder, James Tibbs, and Jose Bello. So there you go. Big trade in that. For those who don't know, around the league, there was a bit of tension between Rafael Devers not being able to. I get the tension is like they told him he was going to play a position, and then they were kind of like, nah, B, we're just going to put you wherever we want. He's like, yeah, well, that doesn't work for me either, bro.
I know. So I'm going to ask here. I know Boston's kind of struggling this year. I believe they went third in that division. Is this kind of a sell move?
I believe so, yeah. That's your star third baseman right there.
That's a tough one, right? It's got to be tough to on.
Early be selling.
Yeah,
that's going to be tough on Red Sox fans, right? Because I think they expect better out of their team.
Your star third baseman.
True.
And he's an all-star too. Well, what I like to know more about that.
I'll be honest, though, I'm more shocked that Ohtani's going to pitch. I honestly wasn't sure if he would pitch again.
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest. He's such a good hitter. I don't. Do they really want to push that?
Wow.
Well, you heard it here first on the. You heard it first on the island. Here you go.
Yeah.
How many innings do you guys see him pitching? Maybe like 4,
5.
I mean, they said he threw 50, so that's what, like, depending. So maybe 4.5, 5.
Yeah, I think 5.
Maybe 6 if he's cruising.
I see 6 the first game.
I'm just saying maybe if he's cruising,
complete game.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's got a no-hitter, perfect game into the 6th inning, I don't think they'll take him out.
The only thing could happen too, though. What if he goes in and really struggles?
Well, I think opposite. Right?
Well, my question is, Lane, you might know this, you might not. if they pull him out as pitcher, can they put him back in the hitting lineup still?
I think they can because they have.
Yeah,
I think it only works. I think because you don't replace him because he plays like I don't know how that really works. Like I have to look more into that, but I'm pretty sure whenever he gets pulled as a pitcher, because he plays a designated hitter pitcher.
I'm gonna say because
Okay.
So
Okay, that makes
because the way the rule works, because it's kind of weird because you would think, oh, well, they're taking him out of the game. Yeah, but they're taking him out of the game as a pitcher, but he's
Right.
still in the role as a designated hitter. Now, before you wouldn't have been able to do that, but they did sort of change that rule so you could do something like that.
Interesting
fact.
Wow.
But let's stick to the baseball diamond. And the Toronto Blue Jays just got swept.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, correct me, Island guys, but I'm pretty sure that's the rule.
Yeah, it seems to be what the Jays do. They play really well and then they fall apart.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
although I will say
think
this series was competitive. I know they like game 2 they only lost by a run and they
That's
didn't
right.
start. Today was a bit bad with Barrios, but I mean Gosman. I mean they just were getting the big hits, but game 2 was pretty close. They only lost by
It was
one.
a 3-2, right?
Yeah, it was only like a 3-2 game. Like it wasn't like
okay,
they got.
but you scored 6 runs in 3 games.
Yeah, but against the Phillies, who are the way better.
Yeah,
team.
Phillies way better
You swept
team.
the
Very
Phillies
strong
earlier. You
pitching.
should have at least you can't get shut out and then only put up 6 runs in the other 2. I don't know, boys.
I'm concerned.
I'm legitimately concerned.
I'm not.
The reason why I'm legitimately concerned is the
aflame.
Jays did the exact same thing last year. They had a winning streak and then they just completely collapsed. I hope I'm wrong, but you got the Diamondbacks and the White Sox and the Guardians coming up. You've got to win all those series.
I think they'll win.
Now you've just been swept. I'm just going to check right now as we're talking here on the podcast, but the Yankees, funny enough, just got swept by the Red Sox.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
Yes. I was going to say they did fine against the Red Sox, but they did not. The Yankees lost 2-1, 4-3, and 2-0 to the Red Sox. So that's the only good thing for the Jays.
Yeah.
You got swept, but the Yankees got swept because that's who you're chasing, right? You got to.
The Rays even jumped them. Wow, that's crazy. The Rays actually jumped the Jays. Wow.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. If you're the Jays, as long as you can keep pace. Yeah. So now the Yankees face the Angels and Orioles and Reds before, and then the Athletics before they face the Blue Jays. So the key is for the Jays, if they can just keep pace with the Red Sox. Let's say every time the Red Sox win 2 out of 3, the Jays got to win 2 out of 3. Mm-hmm. Because then if you can hit your series against the Yankees, and I know it's July, I know it's early, blah, blah, blah. But I know you can't win a World Series in June and July, but I think you can miss the playoffs in June and July. I really do. Sure. So critical baseball coming up for the Jays. I think it's critical now that they beat the Diamondbacks, and I think they got to do more than just beat them. I think
statement game. Yeah, it's got to be statement game now. It's got to show that it's the Jays that won their last 9 out of 12 and not the ones that just got swept.
Because the Diamondbacks are 36-35 right now, coming off an 8-2 loss to the Padres. This is a team you should be able to beatable team. This is a team you should be able to win 2 out of 3 against.
I agree.
I don't care that you're
the only thing is
are they home or away?
Away, and then the only concern is
no, they're home.
Are they home? Is it home?
They're home.
Oh, my bad. But my only
you are not bad. You are beautiful.
You're right. It is home. I thought it was.
What they say.
I thought it was on the road. My bad.
No matter what they say.
The only thing I'm concerned about is that I guess Bassett would take one of them, but the other game I don't know. That's usually their bullpen, like where they just kind of throw in random pitcher A, random pitcher B. So I'm concerned how that game will go. But at least you got Chris Bassett for one of them.
True, but I don't know. It's going to be a tough one for. I just think for the Jays, you got to win 2 out of 3. And I mean, then in theory, you should destroy the White Sox.
Oh yeah,
like you should be able to sweep the White Sox.
If you can't do that. That's
Broom. Yeah, Dan. Broom. For anyone who doesn't know what that video is, go on YouTube Shorts and look up Broom after you're done the podcast. It's a very weird McDonald's clip.
I love it.
let's get into the actual game itself. And I want to talk about the first game of the series because I'm of a mindset that the first game of a series is the most important game of any series because it kind of just sets the tone for the whole series. It's like, look, the Jays lost 8-0 in the first game to the Phillies. The whole series was a dumpster fire. I really think the first game, maybe you don't necessarily have to win it, but it's got to be competitive. I think for the Jays, I think they will win the first because I think they're going to beat the Diamondbacks in this series. So I think they will win the first game of the series. Dan, what do you think? Are they winning or are they losing?
They're winning, but I agree with you. 98 wins, baby. Let's go.
Still think you're out to lunch on 98 wins. I hope they get 97 just so I can make fun of you.
Yeah.
But I will make fun of you even more when Aaron Rodgers gets injured in the first game of the season. But, Mr. Dashko, who are you taking in this one? You taking the Jays or are you taking the Diamondbacks?
I think the Blue Jays are going to bounce back here. They're not knowing that they're at home. And I just looked to see Chris Bassett is on the mound for a 4-game win here. Chris Bassett's having a fantastic season. He's had a few bad games, but mostly of them have been strong outings. So I do think the Jays will get back on track here, get a big win and to start the series against the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I'm going to make my pick for Chazzy. I'm the Duck. And I say the Blue Jays are going to win this game. They're going to be very, very good. They're going to use their bats and hit the balls. Boom. Thank you very much, StreamYard Duck, for filling in for the Chazzy 6.1. You know what it is? Chazzy's getting his update. That's what's going on. So now let's get into our props because there ain't no streakers party like a prop party. And I'm going to start with Mr. Dashko.
Oh, that's me.
It's you, Mario. I love going to this close-up thing. I don't know why, but I love it.
I don't know why.
No, the Diamondbacks get 6 runs.
No, Chris. I don't think they're going to get 6 runs. Chris Bassett's really good pitcher. I think he'll get a lot of strike. I'm going to say he'll get 6 strikeouts. There you go. I don't think 6 runs for the Diamondbacks. No.
Wowzers. Okay, Mr. Moore for your money.
Yes, sir.
Will Vladdy Guerrero Jr. get at least 2 RBIs?
Yes.
Dun-dun-dun.
Yes, I think you will.
I will go last, and I think since it's Bassett starting, he will go at least 6 innings, if not 7. He'll have an absolute dominant game for the Toronto Blue Jays. You know who else agrees?
The Duck?
I agree, too. I think the Blue Jays are going to play very, very well. And my custom prop is the Jays will win this game in regulation. No extra innings. No. Because I need my beauty sleep. Anyways, you can tell it is 1:34 in the morning on the island. It is time we wrap up the show. But before we do,
longest episode ever.
Lane and Dan have collaborated on the mindset.
Well, no, I was going to be generous and give it to Lane because sharing is caring.
All right, Lane, what is your island mindset for today?
So my island mindset, and this is going to, I'll make it a quick one, but we're going to go back to the awards for a minute, and we're going to talk about the Bill Masterson Trophy. And this trophy is awarded to the player or a player in the NHL that has, a significant comeback or an injury or something along the lines of a sort of a travesty and has fought through it. And it was given out to Sean Monahan. And I got to be honest, this is an amazing award for Sean Monahan because, unfortunately I talked about it earlier in the show, but, Johnny Gaudreau, rest in peace, unfortunately passed away this year. And it was so heartbreaking to listen to. I mean, of course, the family will never get over it. I'm not trying to say that anyone will be close, but, Sean Monahan literally, when he was looking in free agency, had no other team on his mind. He didn't want to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Buffalo Sabres. He didn't want to play for anyone. He wanted to play for the Columbus Blue Jackets so he could play with his best friend, Johnny Gaudreau. And when he passed away, there was a lot of criticism out there online, and the media I thought was very harsh to him, saying, "Oh, he's just going to walk away now. Oh, why did he sign here? Oh, he's going to give up and he's going to go cry and say that, well, no, my friend's not here, so I'm not going to be here." And Sean Monahan kind of proved them all wrong and said, "You know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to honor the honor the contract I signed, and I'm going to go out there and lead this team in the way that Johnny Gaudreau would want to lead this team. And my mindset is that, you never know what life's going to throw at you. There's going to be things where you think's going to go good. Sometimes it doesn't go good. But you can't just sit back and accept failure. And even if people are saying that you're going to fail, you got to go out there and prove them wrong and know that you got this, you can do this, and you can be the person that everyone doesn't think you can believe in. And if you want to lead by light, look at what Sean Monahan did here. He believed in himself. He believed in his team. He didn't fight back on his decision, and he proved everyone wrong. So if there's something going on in your life that, gets thrown a wrench at you, and everyone's telling you can't do it, you got this. Believe in yourself. You can do it.
1,000%. That's why, I usually do it. Lane told me about this off camera before the show. I'm like, dude, you got to run with this. This was incredible. I couldn't say it better myself. Just to point out, too, it's not just everything he dealt with off the ice, but on the ice, he had 57 points in only 54 games. He was a point per game player, probably his best career, on pace to his best career before his injuries, right? So, give him huge respect. I did have a mindset for this episode, but I'll save it for next episode. Just want to say this so people remind me, because I do forget things, but this mindset could change sports. So it's an important mindset.
Well, you know what? I think, though, Lane, very powerful stuff you brought in. And the NHL, sometimes these type of awards leagues get wrong, like when Hamlin didn't win the Comeback Player of the Year award when he was on the field. Sean winning this award, it was a no-brainer. So give the NHL a lot of credit there.
100%.
And
terrible Columbus went through.
It is time we sign off for the night. I'm Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed sports analyst, joined by Lane Dashing Dashco, Mr. More for your money,
woo,
and Mr. Duck replacing the CEO. This is the new CEO of Streakers Gaming.
Oh no!
Download the app. Do it now. Do it now. Bye-bye. We'll see you for the post game after the Oilers. Bye.
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 Bye.